We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the South East Nation, the Malakadee people of the Yuin River and Nilquani people of the Far South. We recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. Attendance. Tonight we have Deputy Mayor Thorpe, Councillor Jessup, Councillor Armstrong, who the name tags are sitting different, so you confused me tonight. Councillor Gibson, Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Razak. Can you please identify or introduce your staff, please?
Sure. We've got Acting General Counsel Sandra Anderson, Director of Community and Place Lyle Ground, Director of People and Corporate Services Patty Johnson, Director of Infrastructure and Assets Frank Chen, and Support Staff Innovation and Technology Project Officer Connor Watson and Executive Assistant Olga Bath.
Thank you. Tonight there's no apologies. We have Councillor Amy Robinson and Councillor Andrew Burgess are on leave of absence. We have no other absent tonight. Councillors, does anyone wish to declare an interest in any of tonight's agenda items?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. 4.009/25, do I have a councillor to move a motion that the minutes of the ordinary meeting 27th of August 2025 as circulated be confirmed? Councillor Armstrong and Councillor Jessup. Does any councillor wish to report any changes? Well, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors present and the motion is carried. We have no legislative items tonight, no urgent matters. 7 is mayor announcements, and I just would like to put a big congratulations out to our 2 local football clubs who played off in all bar the ladies' grand final last Saturday. So Colts, reserves and seniors was all from the Yuin Valley, which is pretty amazing. So well done to both clubs. It was great to see. Public participation, 8.1.1, answers to questions taken on notice. There was one question taken on notice from the previous meeting from Marjorie Eber regarding alternate options and regulatory impact statements. The response is available on the website and will be included in the minutes. There was one question given on notice from Roger Lowe regarding Yuin Valley Council policies and procedures relating to the planning process. The response is available on our website and included in the minutes. Questions without notice. There was no questions without notice via email for tonight's meeting. So now we're up to welcome to public question time. If you have a question as the chair, I'll ask you to come forward to the lectern and identify yourself by name and area where you live. To make things fair and equitable, we have a limit of 2 questions per person. We normally allocate 15 minutes, but we're open for longer. All questions asked must be directed to me as the chair, and I will either answer or refer it to the appropriate person. Debate on questions cannot be entered into. The council cannot make decision on issues that arise in public question time. If there's anyone that'd like to ask a question, yes, you come forward. Yes, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Jerry White, Craddock, asking a question on behalf of Circular Economy Huon. To do with agenda item 17.2, which is about Targa. My first question is about Targa and speeding. An online report from the RACT shows that the speed is the leading cause of fatalities on Tasmania's roads. Since 2016, there have been a consistent year-on-year increase of 0.8% in speeding in Tasmania. A 1% increase in speed equates to a 4% increase in fatalities. Recent three-yearly averages show that there were 31,164 speeding offences per year across Tasmania, which is quite an incredible figure. My question is, It is well recognised that following the event, Targa can lead to an increase in speeding and potentially dangerous driving. On this basis, it is requested that in exchange for providing a community event permit and closing specified roads in the municipality, that the council engages in meaningful discussions with Targa Tasmania to A, fund enforcement cameras that can be regularly moved and kept permanently in the Huon Valley to monitor speed and be regularly relocated, and B, provide safe driving tuition and or presentations to young people in particular and other residents living in the Huon Valley.
Thank you. Do we take that?
Look, I'd say thank you for the question. I guess it's better to take it as a suggestion. As you know, we'll have a conversation about this on the agenda tonight, so that can form part of the councillor's consideration. As you'll know, there's already conditions in the recommendation. There's conditions on the approval of Targa. It's not just carte blanche, come down, do your thing. And this has been something we've been working with Targa on for years, improving safety down here. So look, we'll take it as a suggestion and discuss it here tonight, and then come back to you through that, or if there's any other follow-up that we'll need to do if we don't take those suggestions on through the motion tonight.
Thank you. The second question is about Targa and energy efficiency. In recent years, Huon Valley Council has committed to making positive approaches to dealing with climate change by A, declaring a climate emergency, including delivery leading to practices on climate change in the environment topic in the vision statement, and employing officers to improve its response to climate change across the valley. And obviously council is to be commended on those moves. My question is, to ensure activities in the Huon Valley are consistent with both the philosophy and practice of reducing emissions, we ask Council to engage in meaningful discussions with Targa to establish the following award. Establish an energy efficiency prize that could be called the Huon Challenge, to be awarded to the most energy efficient team travelling through the Huon Valley for both ICE and EV vehicles.
Thank you. You can take that.
I take the exact same advice.
Yes.
Yep. You have shared those questions, those suggestions with me earlier, so I can distribute that. And in fact, Olga, have they been sent around? They have been. Great. So it's in front of the councillors, so that they can actually see what you're talking about. That'll assist the discussion tonight.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other person? Yes, come forward to the lectern. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Wilson, Abels Bay.
Thanks, Chris.
Some of us seem to be slow learners, I think. I asked some questions in the June meeting about the Flood Road shared pathway, and also about the Halls Committee being revoked.
Yep.
I thought that I think on July I submitted questions, but the date had changed, so I failed. And then on this Monday, I submitted more questions, but I thought it was 5 o'clock, not 12 o'clock. So you have a copy of my questions that you'll answer by email, and I can only ask 2 of the 11 questions that I have here. So with regard to the Flood Road bypass, and Jerry's question has a bit to do with this because it is related to road safety. And I think I mentioned at that June meeting that just after the June meeting, there was a huge accidents to pedestrians and cyclists had just elevated severely. I was concerned that the shared pathway ended at the river. When I walked it, it didn't, but it seems to me that it would be so much more beneficial to everybody, particularly that active transport which you support in your strategic plan, to have taken the shared pathway all the way to the river and then along the river. And the river is basically the most attractive part of this township. It's a remarkable place. So, and And then your answer that you gave me that night was very disappointing in that you suggested that I should write a letter to State Growth. So my question on that is, does council agree with the fact that a letter from council to the Department of State Growth would have far more weight than a letter from one ratepayer on this issue?
Yep, okay. Well, in response to that, we haven't taken, have we taken ownership of, you know, like the roads, that
Not
sign
yet,
off?
it's still
No.
under, it's still in maintenance, but, look, there's, you referenced before, I think it was 11 questions that you were intending to submit for this.
Well, I thought they were only about 2, but yes, I accept that they were dot points, so.
Yeah, sure. So a substantial body and a substantial amount of information, background, etc. So there's quite a bit of context, and even to answer this question, yes, a letter from a council representing our constituents would generally hold more weight than an individual writing on their behalf. The context to the advice we gave you previously is council has already been working with the Department of State Growth on this project since the commencement, representing our community. We clearly have a difference of opinion on the outcome of that and what we've done, but we are representing the entire community and taking costs into consideration, where there's existing paths, etc. So my advice on your particular line of questioning is, because we want to be open and transparent, and we want you to understand this, and you have, you know, as you say, you've been talking to us about these 2 topics since June. The depth, the requests for information that you're doing, they lend themselves far better to our request for information. So we're going to lead you down that path to give you all the documentation. I'm happy, your team members, to sit down, actually walk you through it. I'd actually prefer to do that with a group of people. Give you the information that you're after. And then the next part of that is whether that shapes up a question if you want to submit it here for public accessibility, or we just agree on how we make that transparent to the wider community. I think that will solve, it'll give you the context you're after, explain where we're at, and we may well still have to agree to disagree, but at least you'll have the context you're seeking.
Yeah, good, thank you. And on the second question, I stated at that time that I thought that the risks had been totally taken out of context, and my email submission goes to some depth to prove that. It is what it is, and I accept that, and I think, and I have to commend council for taking that fiscal responsibility. So it is a difficult situation, but as I said at that time, I think the benefits of having all those volunteers, which amounts to hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work, has been underestimated. By chance, or well, no, it wasn't by chance, I went to the Kingborough Council's Quarterly Progress Association meeting, and that was a wonderful exhibition of transparency, communication, involvement, and I would just urge council, and I hope that there's some, I think it's October that you're going to look at what the effects are of your decision. It's 3 months down the track.
That's the first time we'll be sharing data on it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I'd just urge you to look at the model set up by Kingborough, because it really was a wonderful thing to watch that going in action. And I think it's what you had said, you'd acknowledged that there was a lot of damage that had been done by that rapid process. But that's a really good example of seeing how that can be done, and hopefully, you know, we'll succeed in doing that. So, thank you.
Well, I can quickly answer that, is that in many of the groups, you know, when council implemented community hall committees, they actually dissolved progress associations that weren't committees of council. Right. So that model is, you know, very much alive, active, was active in the Huon Valley in a greater extent, and actually still is active in the Huon Valley, because there's other people that have been doing that and contributing in their own way without having to be a committee of council. Post that decision, several of those groups and other people that haven't participated previously have been reinstituting those progress associations, that exact model. That is exactly what we're trying to encourage people to do, that you do not need to get your your social licence and your ability to engage in community life, you don't need to get a licence off council and be a committee of council. It brings risks onto council, and when I say risks onto council, it's to the community, and you can be just as effective in a separate model, which you now have seen yourself operating in Kingborough. So that's exactly the kind of thing we're trying to promote people to do, and we facilitate that and support it, but in a very different way to having them to be actually accountable to and workers for council.
Thank you. Do I have any other? No? Okay, well, thank you for that. No deputations tonight, no petitions. We have one planning report for council to consider tonight, and I advise that council commenced acting as a planning authority as at
6:16 p.m.
in accordance with provision of Part 2, Regulation 29 of the Local Government Meetings Procedure Regulations 2025, the Council will now act as a planning authority pursuant to the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993. In accordance with Regulation 29, the Council will act as a planning authority in respect to these matters appearing under item number 10 on this agenda, inclusive of any supplementary items. It is important to be aware that your role as a councillor and as a member of a planning authority are different. The key difference relates to the decision making. As a member of the council, your decisions may be swayed by community feedback, but as a member of a planning authority, your decision must be based on the provisions of the planning scheme. The above snippet of the Good Governance Guide makes it clear the importance of wearing what, as we always call it, our planning hats. So, report number 10.004/25, church with subservient playground, youth group, cafe, meeting rooms and associated parking and signage. Do I have a councillor to refer the councillors to the recommendation of this report? Do I have a councillor to move the motion, please? Councillor Jessup, and seconded by Councillor Gibson. Councillor Jessup, do you wish to speak to this motion?
I have a couple of specific questions that I'll ask as it comes up, but no, I just generally I think it is a difficult decision for council, I think, when it comes to densifying the use of land in the town centre, you know, and we're outside of a broader planning discussion that we're trying to have. But, you know, fully acknowledge that the people who own the block of land have every right to put an application and work through the process. And look, the reports appear reasonably solid. It's a challenging piece of land, I think, is the best way of describing it. But look, I'd be interested to hear what other councillors think about that.
All right, do I have anyone else that has, yes, councillor?
Well,
Daniel?
just agree with Paul.
Mark?
But yeah, it is a difficult piece of land, but I think it's very important that as a council, we find ways to utilise that type of land in the future, and not just say it's all too hard, and obviously a little bit of risk involved, but as long as the developer's willing to take that risk and recognises it, and obviously that they're making it a bit higher, so I think it's great that that sort of land is being utilised.
Thank you. Do I have anyone else that'd like to? Yes, Councillor Gibson and then Councillor Armstrong.
I just had a few questions. I mean, I can see that there's a lot of work that's gone into this application, and they've addressed the planning issues, and it seems, from what I can see, that it all fits within the planning scheme. So my questions were around the detention tank for flooding. I wondered how that works when there is flooding. Again, when you're trying to obviously catch water off the hard surfaces on the roof and slow that water into our stormwater system. But I just wondered whether in this situation, when you're in the floodplain and it's underwater, whether that's been covered.
So maybe because you've got a few, maybe we might answer them
Yep,
as you
sure.
go, because then I
Yep.
tend to forget what the first one was. So if I can pass that through to, Yep.
Through you, Mayor. The detention tank is to address different flood risk. We're talking about, there's two types of flooding here on the side we potentially experience. One is the riverine flooding, which is the water come from Huon River onto the side. And in this kind of event, the tank does not going to help or save the side. So the tanks here is to make sure when the water discharge from the hard surface area into a piped drainage system, which is designed for minor events, are not exceeds the capacity of the pipe system, causing overflowing or surcharging onto hard surface or other people's property.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the difference. I just thought that those two things are likely to happen at the same time, and whether or not, you know.
So yes,
But maybe there's times when they don't.
so I would imagine it's mathematically we're talking about the percentage or likelihood of flooding, and in this event we're talking 1% flooding from the riverine, and also the site subject to other flooding, and it's unlikely to both of them occur at the same time. Otherwise, we're talking about 0.01% probability. And also, you probably noticed in the report talking about the site would have 12 to 24 hours
Yes.
before the flood reaches.
Yeah.
So I would imagine the water in the tank would be drained out at that time if it's a localized rain event happens.
Thank you very much. With regard to signage, there was, I mean, I think the signage seems to be the thing that's going to be mostly on the road. And I just read that somewhere about the details and still needing to be approved. So I just wondered whether that's something that will come back to council or is that going to just be approved under delegation?
Specifically through you, Mayor, can you give me a reference point? Because obviously there is a discretion around design and siting of signs.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's a discretion that's within this application. So that discretion is at your disposal to assess as the planning authority. We've obviously given you a position or
Yeah.
recommendation. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
if it was hypothetically approved as it stands, as we've recommended, that signage component would be approved as part of the application.
yeah, I should have marked what page it was. I thought I read somewhere that not all of the details of the signage were here at this stage, and there was anyway. Maybe I'm.
oh, we've got another one and then we can be looking for that one. Yeah.
The last question was just around the pedestrian link to council's car park, and I can see that that's a good thing from the point of view of emergency, and I guess I just don't want council's car park to end up being a default overflow car park for this development, and wondered whether or not we should just cover that isn't for general use.
Okay, can I pass that one through?
Yeah. Through you, Mayor. Certainly, the planning authority can present an additional condition around signage to sort of obviously have the message that it is for emergency use only. So it's at your disposal of the planning authority to put that in. We'll obviously monitor it regardless of whether the signage is present or not from a compliance perspective, but ultimately that option is there for you.
And following on from that, would it be sensible to amend that slightly so only so that we have the if it ever does become a problem, we have a way of mitigating it, or is it something that we would have that jurisdiction anyway?
Through you, Mayor. Actually, there's engineer solutions that can control the opening of the gate, like say, make it one way. You literally can only evacuate. You probably see those 5 doors in the building. This can let you evacuate, but wouldn't let people come in. Those are the solutions potentially can be explored on site.
I guess my question was more, you know, it may not be a problem, but if it becomes a problem, do we have within this approval, do we have the lever that we can do to actually put that sort of thing into place, I guess?
So you'll just want to make sure that that we're not passing something that we can't go back.
Yeah, that if it becomes a problem, we can't retrofit or say, look, you know, you can't, you have to stop this pedestrian.
Through you, Mayor. So the current proposed permit conditions do state that that the application needs to be in accordance with and references a whole range of civil drawings, architectural plans, the flood emergency plan, and within those documents that are referenced within condition 1, it does state that it's for emergency use. So we do have a pathway there, but again, one can make it more explicit in terms of a standalone condition related to that use of that access point, which would then potentially make it easier to enforce if that became a necessity.
What if we amended that to say emergency use only? That be enough to?
And what number is that?
Just on the issue, man, but surely we want a walkable community, so wouldn't we want the good burgers of the C3 Church going to DS Cafe and having their lentil burgers at lunchtime and then going over to service at 2:30? But wouldn't we want that flow? And if it costs us a few car bays, well, we can just get Lockie out with his parking ticket book to find them all and make some revenue. But I'd want it to actually be as open as.
Yeah, you don't want to stop. I mean, that's what I was sort of trying to say. If it becomes a problem with the car parking.
That's more a parking enforcement issue.
Yeah, I'd be recommending you go down the parking enforcement direction. And I, for what it's worth, I do agree that walkability, permeability is a really positive thing.
And particularly if you're going to have play centre-y type things during the day, you want, in actual fact, we probably want to look at accessibility from prams and all that sort of, we probably want to be more disabled friendly.
That's included, through you, Mayor, that's included, that sort of post-permit design work is included in the condition.
Would that be pretty standard conditions now to making it? Yeah.
Especially if it's been used as primarily an evacuation, you want it to be
Accessible for all. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's fine.
they were the only questions I had. Thanks, ma'am.
Okay. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple, and it's probably in here somewhere and I've missed it. But the use of the council car park to get into the church yard through the gate, which is Little Short Street, isn't it? Or Short Street,
Yeah, you've got to come
coming
in.
along the fence here.
Yep, that's correct.
Who's responsible for maintenance of that?
Short Street.
Us. Are we responsible?
It's a council road.
It's a
yep.
council
So
road.
are we expecting that to deteriorate more so because of the extra traffic volume?
Of course,
And we will pick up the tab for that,
of course.
okay?
It's a lot of subdivision going in, I suppose, off a council road.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because it's a weird place to have a thing. But my other concern is, and I know that this has been consulted over and there's no historical value to information from engineers and whatnot, but I'm really concerned that if the road floods and you use the little access onto Short Street, if that's flooded, go the other way, there's a fair chance the other one will be flooded also. Because I've lived through 2 floods and both entrances and exits were flooded both times. I'm not really satisfied, me personally, with the safety of that. Because you don't get notice, even though it says there will be notice. You don't get notice because sometimes it just comes from nowhere. And I wouldn't like something terrible to happen because it would be very, very easy. The floods come through so fast. That would be my only concern, that I don't think either of those evacuation routes, if need be, would be particularly effective if a flood was happening. But the engineer says it is, so therefore,
That's it. We have suitably qualified advice
Yes.
that we've.
I'm just
assessed.
living from experience, and I know that I've been waist deep in water, so I would disagree with what they say.
Yep.
But if the engineer says we're good to go, then the engineer, but it will remain to be seen. But I think that was pretty much it. I'd like public holidays and Sundays to start a little later, but that's also probably not something I can address, because I'd be very annoyed if a noise started at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning when I'd worked all week. Probably again not likely to happen, but that's probably sounds nitpicky. But there are houses reasonably close to where this proposal is going to sort of be. That's it. Thank you.
I'm just thinking of the service station, and it's in an area where there is a bit of noise already, isn't there? So-
It is, however, the cars will be driving back and forward across in front of the homes because the fence is really the street.
So are you speaking to condition 3, which is the operation of the church, or is condition 5, which is commercial vehicle movements, or both?
Both.
Do you want to give any background or anything? Or is there any, there's a question in there on, are those times
Flexible?
flexible? Sorry.
No, you're right.
Sorry.
Well, that is what you're
Number
asking for.
3.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yep.
Subject to the zone.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that it's going to align with the zoning provision.
So we could change that if it was.
It will align with the zoning provisions because I already read it. But,
There you go.
but I'm just wondering
So I
if,
don't think we can change.
no, well, I tried that before and that didn't work very well, so probably not.
We've asked the question, so we'll get.
Like there's a lot of elderly people that live along there and a lot of people that work, there's young couples that work as well. So I think, there's being a respectful element with a non-coherent system really for planning approvals, isn't there? Which is tricky.
Got an answer through email.
Yeah.
So the acceptable solutions in the zone, which is the general business zone, allows for hours of operation of use, excluding etc., must be within the hours of 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Sunday and public holiday. That's referencing that acceptable solution in the zone.
Yeah, it's just because most of the other businesses in the Huon Arcade do not operate on the weekends, so it's a fairly quiet little area. So it could go from being reasonably quiet to being reasonably active, which is unfortunate for the people that built their house there, I guess. But yes, it does. That would be one of the frustrations of the planning scheme for moi. But that's all. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes,
I have
councillor.
some questions.
Yep.
Around parking, and I'm not sure if I've also missed it in the report, there's some comments around the intensification on vehicle movements on the intersection of Short Street and Main Street. But that Short Street's already known for an overload of parking. How do we determine that the parking within the plans are suitable to the projected use patrons or whatever? To actually say that that's a suitable amount of car parks to try and determine that our car parks on Short Street or the council car park aren't going to be treated as overflow parking. But specifically on Short Street, there were people already parking on the lawns and blocking people in, especially on a Friday night at 5 o'clock.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, so this is a specific question get asked and addressed under the planning scheme. So we had a report provided by a suitably qualified traffic engineer. And in the report, it does calculate what's the ratio required under the planning scheme as minimum number of parking space provision for the site. And it worked out, they talk about the 50 people and there's about 30 parking spaces, which exceeds what's required in the planning scheme already. And we would expect for a facility, or the report suggests that for a facility like that, you would have not everyone come in with their own car. Generally, it's a family kind of venue. you would have people car sharing or probably minimum people using walk as pedestrians or riding a bike. We're talking about the 50 space or 50 people space. 30 car provision is more above beyond what's required in the scheme already.
Does the scheme determine a patron as non-staff member? Because with a multi-use facility, where there's a cafe, a function room, multiple meeting rooms, are staff members included in the patron numbers under the planning scheme, or are they just users of that facility?
When you say function room, what?
Like meeting rooms and things like that.
Through you, Mayor, I can answer that. So community, I'll just pick one. I'm looking at the table now. So in the Parking and Sustainable Transport Code, there's a specific table that articulates it. So community meeting and entertainment is the one I'm looking at the moment. That's what has calculations like 1 space per 20 square meters of floor area, or 1 parking space. So that's how they quantify. Or some of them also talk to 1 space per 40 seats, whichever greater. So that's how they quantify it. And again, that is in the scheme, embedded in the scheme.
Cool, thanks. And the other question was, it's obviously not specific to this, but any of the flood reports, would they have given us any indication that this development would intensify or make the impacts of flooding worse in terms of damage to any of council's assets, like the car park that border the development? Or we can't determine that from the SOF application?
Yes, through you, Mayor. In the flood report prepared by Peter Sherry, there is I think it's page, just let me dig out my notes. So actually they provide an AFLAX report or AFLAX map, which effectively, I think it's the page 23 of the report, is showing there's actually a map indicates before and after development, what's the impacts on the water level around the building and in that area. And that map suggests there's no change or minimal change to the flood level post the construction of the building. So it's look like a map because there's no polygons showing on the map.
Yep, is that all, Councillor Thorpe, or do you have another one?
No, that's all from me,
Yep.
sorry. I'm looking.
Councillor Jessup?
Thanks, Mayor. I've got 3 issues. Lighting, one of my pet hates is the destruction of the nighttime sky in the Huon Valley, and I don't think we're putting any night standard requirements on them because they can have the security light on all night. So are we actually requiring them to actually have, downward facing, properly designed lighting? That's the first question.
So we have included for the external, under condition 6, providing external lighting to eliminate external vehicle parking areas and pathways. You'll see that it references all external lighting must conform to standard, the Australian standard 4282/2023, and that's control of obtrusive effects of outdoor
So that's a
lighting.
night light.
So that's essentially, it's all the concepts of dark sky and focusing that light where it needs to be and not allowing light spill, not allowing light to intrude into neighbouring properties, etc., etc.
Excellent, thank you. Can we make sure we enforce that? Traffic, I didn't like the traffic study. I think it was weak. Couple of issues that it didn't address. It talked about sight lines requiring 69 metres, but didn't say if it actually met the sight line or not. I wonder if coming out of that short street, if that sight line is actually met.
Bridge.
Yeah, so I suppose you're looking down the bridge. I wondered if that would be, and you are turning, most people I suppose would turn into the flow of traffic. But anyway, so I thought that was a question that I didn't see the answer to. And the other thing is that, it said basically, well, we did the assessment, they told us there was going to be this many vehicles, therefore that's what we've felt with a number of vehicles. These organisations often offer their buildings as meeting centres and conference centres and things like that. So, and I note that's not in the title of the DA. So either they've they've not thought about that or they haven't thought to mention that. But the traffic study doesn't say, and you know, in the scenario, if they were opening up 2 or 3 times a week to conferences, there would be another 40 or 50 vehicle movements per day. So I don't know if we actually, well, I do know because you answered me, but just to confirm, I believe we actually did ask them if there was any intent to use it as a conference venue, and they've said no. And
We RFI'd on any additional uses they may want to include in the application.
and if they decide they do want to open up as a conference centre, they would have to come back to council and readdress that. So that's good to know because, not that I'm saying would be a bad use, because I don't think, we have a lack of venues and stuff, but it would be good to have it as a planned use. And the other one, which I don't know if there's an answer to, and again, this gets back to the whole site planning. It, to me, would be much more sensible if there was some way that we could enter off Wilmot Street for that. So I don't know if we tried to facilitate any discussions with the owners of the building across the road there to see if there was any way of doing a land swap or coming in, because I do have some, the same comments that Councillor Armstrong made about, cars going very close to those houses there, but I don't, that's really out of our jurisdiction, I suspect, but that would have been nice to think that could have happened. I'm
But
assuming.
if they haven't applied for what you're saying, there was probably no reason to.
No, so I just wondered if we had that discussion with them and say, is there any way of changing this? Because I know they asked to come through our car park and we said no to that. And I can understand why, because it would have meant a significant loss of parking. But anyway, so it's just a pity. I think it's not the best use of the traffic flow, I suppose, from our perspective. And the use I talked about and the walkability I talked about. So that's it. Yeah, that was my comments.
Any other questions or points on this one? No? Okay. Do you want to close?
Look, Mayor, it is a big development for the centre of town, but I think it is ultimately an appropriate development, and I appreciate the staff's work in making sure we've got lots of reports to read, and like all these things, it's a shitty piece of land, and it probably is the best use of it, because I don't know if you'd ever put housing or anything like that on it anyway. So, I think it is what it is, and we should vote on it.
All right. Well, I'll do just that, and I will put that motion forward, and all those in favour, please raise your hand. That's Councillor Jessup, Thorpe, Doyle, Gibson, O'Neill and Rozak, and Bodie, you're abstaining, okay, and Councillor Armstrong. Thank you. All right. I advise that council is no longer acting as a planning authority as at
6:43 p.m.
General reports, 19.009/25. Do I have a councillor to move a motion that the general reports and minutes for the period 1 to 31 August 2025 be received and noted? Thank you. Yes, Councillor Rozak, and a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. Do you wish to speak to?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Great to read how active, this council is. It's always interesting to read through the general report section. But I think this month there are quite a few things actually to highlight. I just make my way slowly through the sections and point out a few, not maybe all of them, because we don't want to stay all night, but business enterprise unit. Great to hear that the waste recovery board has approved this grant of 130,000 for the Signet reuse shop. It's my closest reuse shop. I'm there frequently, and it's great to see how busy it is. It's humming with people, and it's great to see how the staff is already making very good use of the site as it is and offering the service to the community. I know so many people who find treasures there, my kids included. So that's great to see that there's some more money coming into that.
Notice that it was fully a staff initiative. The waste resource team to trial that and to get the concept up and running. And the interesting history is that apparently, I haven't confirmed, but we're pretty sure it was actually the site of the first recovery tip shop in Tasmania, and then disappeared for many years. So it's great to be bringing that back and formalising it based on the evidence.
Yeah, I heard so. From the times when Signet had its own council, I met a few people who ran the reuse shop back then and heard interesting stories about them, making wheat mats out of the cardboard rather than carting it away. They were just shredding it with water in concrete mixers and then pressing it into sheets and then selling it on as wheat mats. Like, people wouldn't put down cardboard, but they would happily buy a recycled cardboard mat and put it into their garden. So yeah, great. I mean, that will hopefully support the
Initiatives.
the initiatives there. That's great. Well, next, a few words to the rural living zone study, I think, is the next one that I noted. I've participated at the drop-in session and a couple of weeks ago, and just as a side note, my perception was that many of the people who dropped in to get information about what is happening and what's the whole thing about had actually the idea that it would be something that council would be pushing. As in council would be initiating the planning scheme amendments, ultimately resulting in rezoning and then, densification happening. I think it would be in this context important to make sure that it's ultimately targeted at individual property owners to take this initiative. We're basically just preparing the grounds and giving tools at, property owners' hands to find out if it's worthwhile doing or not. So I think that's, just kind of having had that snippet, I think it's worthwhile and maybe refining what the scope and direction of the study is.
This is why Councillor Mozak's looking for that. I actually noted that at a couple of the groups that I went to, and it was sort of mixed. Some people were saying, I wish council would do this for me, and other people were saying, don't you dare try to do this for me. And it was really interesting sitting down with the matrix that Irene had developed, just to talk to people about how complicated it would be. And to be honest, I've been a bit disappointed. I'm always disappointed by planning laws, but in a way I've been a bit disappointed by it's going to be such a challenge for any small group to actually densify their rural land, because there are just so many hurdles that it can come unstuck on. So it's really good exercise in that. But I hope if communities did want to do that, we could help them. But ultimately, it is the landholder's job to go through that planning process. But it's not going to be easy.
Further, just highlighting the almost $4.7 million that Huon Valley is receiving for our Huonville Reimagined structure plan. I think that will greatly contribute to making this project happen. We've been all getting very excited with the presentations that we've seen throughout the past workshops, and what's coming ahead. This beautiful contribution will only help to get the outcomes that we're looking for quicker. And ultimately, just a few, actually a big compliment on the NRM annual report at the end of the general report section. I hope you don't mind me asking quite naive question maybe, is it really only 1.68 FTE who are doing all this work? And may I ask how many volunteers are working at the nursery at the moment, cranking out those thousands of plants every month?
8 or something.
I think it's between 6 and 8, yeah, 6 and 8. I'd go with 8 volunteers at the nursery. Yes, 1.6 FTE, but a very capable, experienced, passionate 1.6 FTE.
Yeah.
Likewise myself, I used to work in the NRM unit, so I have a passion there too. But we also partner, so we're not just a doing unit, we're a partnering, we're a supporting, and we're a facilitating unit. So it's working with land care groups, it's working with private landowners, it's working with government stakeholders to maximize and multiply our outcomes rather than us just doing on our own. But an amazing team. So
Yeah.
credit to them.
Did you note the media release that we put out? I think it was this week before, on land care contribution in Huon Valley. So to Lyle's point, that facilitator of that much bigger effort, which makes up, it's approximately half of the total state's land care contribution is happening in the Huon Valley. So it just demonstrates how much passion there is for, we already knew this, for the natural environment and contributing to local public spaces.
Yeah, no, it's great. So, I've noticed last month in the general reports, it was noted that 1,000 plans have been distributed to the local land care groups, and another 750 this month. So, yeah, amazing to see how much they are giving out to our community. The next thing that I noticed in the report, and as well in last month's report already, is the Burton's Reserve Indigenous land management practices that have been going on for the last 2 years. Reading the report, I think it's just a brilliant showcase of what cultural burning practices can do when well applied. I've participated in a few workshops myself with Jason Andrew-Smith over the past few years, and it's just amazing to see how he works, how he gets people, on board, and the positive effects that it takes, throughout the valley. That's really great. And last but not least, in the NRM report, I would just like to point out the case example, the TESVEG training regional coordination, where Huon Valley Council coordinated and ran a 2-day training program for is it the Southern region? Just again, great to see that staff at Huon Valley Council is driving initiative for regional collaboration. We've seen that, I think, throughout the last few months with Dr. Malcolm Johnson driving projects Tasmania-wide and basically being the big facilitator in bringing people together. This is another prime example, and it just shows that the Huon Valley Council is right up there in driving change into the future. So, thank you very much. Very comprehensive report section, much appreciated.
And I think that they're respected in outer circles as well, to be able to deliver that.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of hard work that's paying off.
Yeah.
Yes, Councillor.
Thank you. I just noted also the reduction in the request for information. There's a nice sort of steady downward trend on that. So hopefully that's showing that some of the work that we're doing around using, I can never remember the name of it, TasPlan or Plan Build or whatever the software is helping applicants put in better applications for planning, and maybe it's also showing that we're able to educate and support people without going through formal, long, timely sort of process of requesting for information, and that hopefully is making the lives of our planners better and less stressful with less work to do. So that was a nice downward trend, and I'm sure Councillor Robinson, who is watching us from South Australia, eating a pizza at the moment. What else do you do in Adelaide than to watch council meetings in Hobart? I'm sure she'd be happy with the reduction in the RFIs as well. And the other comment, just to reinforce the NRM, the final report for our environmental group. I know, they have a frustrating role sometimes in compliance, and sometimes we just see the compliance side of their role. But anybody who really has interest in our environment should read that report, because it just shows how much more they do. And I do recall a number of councillors did ask that we increase that FTE to 2, and we got knocked back because we didn't have the money. But yeah, I think even with a small increase to those people, the amount of work they do could be modified so much more, and very pleased to see all the things that they're across. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I just wonder if we could explain to the people at home that watch, because often I hear you talking about things and we don't actually know what you're talking about. So the $4.7 odd million that we have to plan ahead, could we just run over what exactly that's going to do for the Huon Valley, just so that people that are watching actually know?
Was it in the media release?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was just specific. Can you just break it down and tell them how it's going to impact with everything else that's going on? Because I think it's a lot of money, and what happens is I think we're just going to plan ahead and pop a row of houses there and a row of houses here. You know, they don't understand the broader ramifications of it.
You'll have a crack because
I know it's complex, but just use words we all understand.
And you can pick me up if I'm wrong. So, I mean, it's titled Reimagining Huonville. So, we are experiencing growth. We're one of the highest growing LGAs in Tasmania. Growth is occurring whether we like it or not. So, we have to be really, council staff, councillors fully understand there's a lot of people that have lived here for a very long time and don't want things to change. We all live here, we love it, but there's differences of opinions. But change is happening anyway. We have had what I'd call developer-led growth for a very long time. So that is parcels of land being chopped up at the discretion of that landowner and doing their thing because they're able to under the planning scheme. That's completely non-strategic. And if I give you an example, there's a lot of houses and things going on in the hills and whatever else that are out of view, not all just in the hills, but not in the town centre. They're out of sight, out of mind until you come into town and you can't get a car park. Woolies is oversubscribed. We're experiencing all these pressures of growth, but the houses aren't quite, it's a bit hidden from view. We've then got, so there's population pressure, but then there's also demographic change. And you could go on and on with all the changes. We're in a volatile sort of space generally. Environment's changing, demographics are changing, population's changing, and it's all just putting pressure on things. So if I talk about demographics, we've got a hyper-aging population, but nowhere for people to age in place in the community that they've always lived in, and when they want to move on from a large property that takes a whole lot of maintenance, they really don't have many options to go to. We similarly don't have good options for young people and young families, and because in Huonville, we are actually a commuted suburb really of Hobart. We are in striking distance. There are many people that commute. So density, which is something that's been discussed with councillors quite a bit, there is land in the centre of Huonville that provides affordable choice, different housing mixes, different to Huonville, but allows for the suburb to be palatable for more people. It allows those people to use their car less and be able to walk to the shops, etc. So more people can contribute to be part of the economy without taking up car spaces for all the rest of it. It starts giving us the densities that allow for better public transport and connectivity to back to Hobart, etc. So really, all these considerations, I haven't touched on design considerations, traffic, safety, etc., etc. This project looks at the zones that we have in Huonville in a generalised sense. So we've got our sort of recreation and school zone, we've got the river area that we really don't celebrate very well, and we've got residential growth areas, and then we've got a commercial area. It's looking at all of these and looking at all the push-pull factors that make people's lives better or worse, and going, when we're facing growth and we're facing change, how do we plan that growth rather than just let the free market do its thing, and come up with solutions that are that we know from our community views, all the surveys, etc., that we've been doing, are in need, are desirable, are going to be commercially viable to actually build, and that improve people's what we've been calling livability, because that's what we're here to do. And yes, it is a lot of money, but anyone that's done a development application recently for a single building or a church or whatever knows it's a huge amount of money for one building, let alone to literally redesign and plan for the next 30, 40 years how Huonville is going to reshape itself.
Thank you. The reason I asked all of that, and by the way, I wouldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, cool.
Sorry.
Sorry, through me, sorry.
Can say it better.
I'll just say one other thing is just to close the loop a little bit, is the community members and councillors may recall we did the community views survey. That was really well sort of attended, participated in survey. And that data is super useful, and this Reimagine Huonville is one way, and these structure plans that we're doing all over are one way of us delivering on the dreams and the requests and the wishes of the community that came through that survey. So I'm actually just looking at it now, and things like affordable housing, connectivity, public transport, celebrate the river, the sports precinct. It's covering all those things. This is how we then plan for what that looks like and what can be achieved in that space. And Huonville has a lot of opportunity, as Lockie was saying. The river is underutilised. If we can make that a destination site. We do have Ranelagh down the road that has its own sporting precincts. We need to plan for how these things interrelate and interconnect. So it's an exciting project.
And I really missed the key point here. It's not just a plan and you get a nice shiny plan about your hopes and dreams and aspirations. It's the follow through into specific area plans, which are the legislative, that gives you the statutory teeth to actually make that part of the planning scheme so that we can actually follow through on these things.
So the funding will take us all the way through.
Funding gets us all the way to that point so that all the community consultation, all the demographics, all the rest of it that we're looking at, we actually give it statutory merit to actually deliver it. It's turning all that stuff into action.
Yeah. Well, we are, but where we're actually at the moment is it took over a year to get the result on that, and as you councillors know, we can't wait, so we continue doing stuff. So we are redoing the project plan, remixing how we're going to address it, because we've actually gone down. We retooled, and so we're just gathering ourselves to launch. And this was a lot of work went into educating the people that give out the money. The councils haven't got that spare 4.7 or whatever it might be to do this planning. This is, it's just breathtaking to think. And we had our fingers crossed and hopes up that we would get this, because this allows us to look for the future.
It was a huge chunk of the funding, wasn't it? Which is, I think, is testament to the fact that this council is doing quite well, because it's getting large chunks of money to improve, pretty much everything. And I think people want these things, but they don't often realise the process and how to achieve them, which is why I've just asked you to just give us a really basic rundown. And I think to be fully forward into the future, it has to be carried through, and this money will allow us. And we've been talking about all these things that we've shelved or archived because they're half done or they're a third done, and now we've just got this one big ball with all these things in this one big ball, but there's enough money now to roll it down the road. And I think it's going to make it so much better for everybody else, because we are growing, because everybody wants to live here, and can you blame them? I mean, really. But it was just came with the confusion of the Signet 5 odd million, the safety upgrades for Signet, and people were just sort of saying, oh, is it the same money? Is Huonville getting that money now? So they were sort of both launched at about the same time, and there was just some confusion. But yes, I agree. And I think people probably don't quite get how much work is involved in getting grants, and
There's a lot of them you have to have this done before you can apply.
absolutely. And this starts 12 or 18 months out, and councillors have really smashed goals the last 3 years along with the staff, and there's a lot of work involved in that, and I hope people appreciate it, really. Thanks, guys.
People would like to see naively or not, and I probably tend to agree a little bit, is that they would like to see some practical bricks and mortar
Yeah.
as well. And
Results.
we have done a lot of planning already, and we do know some moves that we want to make. I'm not going to mention them now, but we sort of know we've got certain things over in that sporting precinct.
Yeah.
Could you start the ball rolling with some of that finance?
You want that, Cross?
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
The nice thing with this regional precincts and partnerships grant is there's actually a stream 2, which is, so what we've got is stream 1, which is the planning. Stream 2 is the delivery.
Yes.
So that's the actual bricks and mortar. So if we can deliver on good planning and show what we want to do, then we've got an option to then try and access that stream 2 for implementation. And I would say look at Devonport and how Devonport have utilised grant funding to transform their town centre. That's related. They also got funding from the same grant stream. So you can see what can be achieved in that space.
And that's about 3 stages, wasn't it, I think,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
Devonport? Yeah.
But it is frustrating. I get what you mean. We've been talking about it for a while. It'd be nice to actually shove it into gear a bit. But patience is a virtue.
Yeah.
But no, that was it. Thank you.
Any others? Yes?
But I think most of it's been covered. I had a few little questions. Oh, I thought it was great that the primary school was, in Cygnet, was included in the strategic planning. I mean, that's youth engagement and strategic planning put together, and I think it's really good to keep the kids involved, so that was great.
It was all the schools, all the schools on that side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure they do.
I don't think so, but they want one.
The little cherubs, they did want a pool, yes.
In the climate section, this is a thing close to my heart. There was a mention of a nature-based solutions for the Cygnet Coast Road erosion issues. I was wondering what that nature-based.
Nature-based is using soft solutions to shore up the eroding. So Cygnet Coast Road has got a lot of mudstone. Yeah. So it's it's maintaining and promoting planting to maintain the vegetation cover that then holds the soil in place. But Cygnet Coast Road is turning into a sort of a pilot project around us working with infrastructure and looking at that risk in that space and what we can do now, but also more importantly into the future in terms of life of those assets and how we maintain them.
Absolutely.
And also the solution we're looking at, we're not gonna go in to just start shoring the entire bank straight away. We're actually gonna pick the location where the stormwater pipe comes
Test.
out to test whether this solution gonna work. Then we expand it.
Okay, great. Yep, sounds like a good approach. I think everything else has been covered. So in terms of keeping the public involved with the Huonville precinct structure plan, what's the next stage where the public can sort of see what's happening or be involved?
Just pulling it up now.
I don't have a recall on that, I'm sorry.
So very disappointed.
So we've obviously we had a draft plan in place, and we have taken all the feedback on that draft plan. We've incorporated that into a sort of a summary of that. And right now what we're doing is we're working on amendments in that space, as well as a draft implementation plan. And we are, I'm just reading, sorry, that's currently with the internal working group for review at the moment. And then we'll be coming back for, as a sort of a final draft for endorsement. So,
A workshop back to us first or
yes,
not?
correct, yeah. So that endorsement is from council, yeah.
Great, thanks. I saw under data management something about reviewing the forestry notifications from Sustainable Timber Tasmania, noting the presence of threatened species. It sounded quite interesting. I was wondering if somebody could explain further what was involved there.
Might have to take it one of these. I've tried to cover everything, but
Yeah, you're doing well.
yeah, I'll take that on notice.
Okay,
That's
thanks.
right.
That were the only things I had, other than what's already been mentioned. Oh, yes, no, I guess I did also note what Councillor Jessup mentioned about the request for information decreasing, and I think that that the early guidance that council planners are now giving to applicants for what they have to provide is very useful, and also is stopping this request for information. So that's,
Our front counter.
I think it's also the quality of the RFIs that we do give out.
Yeah.
It's just
early and thorough.
Yeah, and more context, and the
Yeah.
planners are really understanding and sort of and doing an awesome job in understanding that. Do a bit more at the start, and it helps people, and it cuts off those second and third bites.
Well, I think it's a noticeable improvement, and
Yep.
credit should be given to that work.
And the fact that we have that contact.
Oh, down on the front counter as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. I mean, that's the thing. It's all this stuff is a team effort. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not one thing. There's been many things
Yeah.
from customer service, planning, engineering, all trying to come together. And it's a big beast to move, but it is moving, and the
Yeah,
results
in the
are
right
coming
direction.
It was something that 7 years ago when we first got elected, we were keen to see change in, so it's really nice to be seeing that.
7 years later.
Yeah.
Well,
But it is,
Can
but it
unlock
is. Yeah, it's working.
through. I wasn't here 7 years ago.
No.
I'd be really grey if I was.
Thank you, Matt.
I just want to make note that that the work for Shipwright's Point jetty replacement, yeah, the Crown permit's been received and should start mid-October, so that's great to see. Yeah, but it'll be great once it's, and there is processes, and every department works different there, so, that's good. It's a bit disappointing to read where people had been on the Glenhuon Oval. That's always disappointing to see. Any of the vandalism is hard to deal with. Anyway,
Sorry, Mayor. There's been a bit of hooning out Glenhuon Way too of late. Has anybody drawn anyone's attention? I've had a lot
I
of.
should imagine that Colin Riley will make note of it when.
Yeah, I've just had a lot of the residents sort of comment about there's a couple of, regulars.
Look, I mean, down here, we collaborate closely with TasPol on hooning. It remains statewide, one of the priority issues. The police down here are all over it to the best of their ability.
We have cameras on our halls. We don't have cameras on our halls, do we?
As in,
As just in like
Not all of them,
just
but
security.
some of them.
some,
Yeah, I'm just no particular reason I asked that. I was just curious.
yeah.
I just thought some are a little bit of, like Pelverada, for instance, is a bit out of the way. If somebody was to, go there of night time, I just wondered if there was a record of suspicious behaviour.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting emails from STT about what they're finding. They're finding piles of tyres again at this moment, which is creates a lot of time and effort put into removing. So you go through stages of different things, and we sort of had to stop there for a little while, the dumping of tyres, but it seems to be back a problem for STT again at the moment.
I think it'll always be a problem. There's just that element in the community, isn't there? That
Yeah.
wants to-
I think that we have less and less of that smaller person that like removes tyres, backyards and things, as in a business, that we can stop a certain amount with the tyre stewardship that the major guys have, Bridgestone and Dunlop, but and they sign up to make sure they dispose of their tyres. I know that you've done a lot of footwork around some of the smaller ones. But then we have things where it comes on Facebook where a service station will give them away. Come and get them, sort of thing, to get rid of them. So it is a cultural change, and I think that we are moving forward on that. But
I do too.
so
I think
it's disappointing. So is there any others? Do you wish to have anything to close on that?
No, thank you, Mayor. I think all the grounds have been covered. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. It's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Okay. Councillor workshops are as listed.
Yes.
Yeah, in there. 13.1, there were 3 councillor questions taken on notice from the August meeting from Councillor Armstrong regarding the landslip at Wattle Grove, Councillor Gibson regarding Port Ewell stormwater upgrade, and Councillor Jessup regarding Barrow Sale trail funding. Responses will be included in the minutes. So 13.2, there was no councillor questions given on notice. Councillors, are there any questions without notice tonight? Yes, Councillor O'Neill?
Question or a comment. I think we've all agreed that we'd like to shape our planning scheme to be more user-friendly and realistic and less expensive. I'm not sure if we've sort of made many inroads yet, but this is something that I would like to ask if council could sort of support. Could council work with development applicants on the issue of passing lanes and pull-off areas on reserved roads and driveways? Can we support applicants in conjunction with TasFire? Can we support residents or development applicants to actually look at the individual sites and go there on site and have a look and say, well, this is what's doable, what's appropriate for that site, and discuss realistic solutions rather than being in an office and just putting a little mark every 50 metres. I was invited to a site last week or 2 weeks ago, and they've got their spot on the map for where, and it's on the side of a mountain basically. It's a reserve road, and it's you're going to do a lot of environmental damage to put them in where they're supposed to go. But then 20 metres this way, there's a one that's not perfect, but it could be made into a passing lane. It already is actually, but it needs a little bit of fill, and it can be done without just destroying the side of the hill. And can we just sort of be a bit more forgiving and realistic about what's possible and what's not? And also the cost is massive if they want to go that way.
Has the resident in that example had their consultant who's designed this stuff, because it's not council that's designing it for them? Have they had that consultant on site and posed that?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But they've just it's already been approved, so it's already set in concrete.
Or by a prior owner or something.
Well, they're building the house.
Yep.
So to change that, you're going to have to get agreement from TasFire to move the site a bit more. Obviously, they didn't think about it. They're probably more interested in getting the build start, and then they're thinking, oh shit, and he's got a quote, well, how much it's going to cost to do that. And it's
these are the age-old tensions that council faces when we're seen as.
I'm not saying. Yeah,
I get where you're coming from, but I need to say these are the tensions between people, the enthusiasm. You hit the nail on the head. The enthusiasm to just get on with it, get past planning, and then it gets to building, and then we're trying to unravel things that have been done, and it's one of those things where hindsight, and not everyone gets the opportunity to build a second time, have that hindsight, and it's really, really frustrating for applicants and us both. I'm not sure if I can pass through to you if you've got any ideas on how we can do that.
The plan is, it'd also be good if that decision was made on site and you've seen that there was a passing area there that could be utilised rather than just putting something on a map.
From our perspective, we don't do the putting on the map part. So there's a provision in the scheme that requires in the parking and sustainable, in the access code, there's one that talks to bushfire and passing bays. We will ask the applicant, can you address that? They will then seek, because we're not suitably qualified under the bushfire component to do that assessment, they'll do that. Unfortunately, we don't put where those should be. They will propose them, and we will take them as a suitably qualified person has proposed them to go there.
So what is the recommended length for every passing lane? Is it 50 metres or something like that, or?
I'll prescribe, Frank. Yeah. I don't off the top of my head, I don't, but again, that's usually led by them, and the directors determine.
Okay, look,
It's not all hopeless, but it is a question of when people invest money and where they're at, and it's this classic pickle that we face, in people not understanding that getting your planning permit isn't the golden ticket. There's all this other stuff to be done, and the more you invest early, well, you do it every day, don't you? Lucas?
I'm not saying that they accept that they've probably made a mistake as well.
The kind of things that we can do though is, and it relies on people reading it, is guidelines and provide that kind of advice. So if this is a pitfall that we see, and if we're seeing it enough that it warrants that we create a guideline for that to give people, to inform them of, here's the just balance, and particularly if you've got a tricky driveway, a difficult access, it's probably worth investing in that driveway design as part of the planning stage and not just kicking it down the road, so that you're fully informed. Because there are some people that I'm well aware of who have done all this work and then realise it's like hundreds of thousands to just do the driveway, and they
This is not actually a
no
driveway,
idea.
this is a reserve road.
Either way.
And there's more people living up that road.
Yeah, a guide like that is something that is relatively straightforward for us to do. And it's similar to, there's been a lot of commentary recently around tiny homes down here. We're doing some, a guide to what we are doing already and what we can do around tiny homes. So, that's kind of the extent of what we could offer. Because we're not qualified and we're certainly not resourced to be going out and doing the drawing of the where on the map.
Thank you, Mayor. Just as a comment on that, I agree. That's kind of something that I think worked better under the interim planning scheme, if I'm not mistaken, where a bushfire assessment was not mandatory. No, it was mandatory, wasn't it? When there was a bushfire-prone overlay, you had to put your bushfire assessment in with planning, which, depending on the development, would uncover exactly that. If there's a long access way and you need all those passing bays, that would be all considered at planning stage. And you don't open the tin of worms, when you already have your whole golden ticket in your hand. So I wonder if there's any way that we can bring this. Maybe this guide that Lockie mentioned is already enough, but would it be a sensible idea to bring it back into the planning scheme to request a bushfire assessment? Because in so many ways, I've seen situations where people put a planning application in for a dwelling without having to put a bushfire report in. They got the approval, then they got the bushfire guy in, and the bushfire guy told them, your driveway is 2 degrees too steep because you can't be more than 10 degrees if it's unsafe or whatever. So, and their driveway's got 19 degrees. So there's no way, even if they seal it with concrete or bitumen or whatever, it'd still be too steep for any fire truck to go up there, yet they have a valid DA. So it's kind of like...
These are all the type of issues that this council and others across the state are crying out for in planning reform down here. And knee-jerk changes, here's this Tasmanian planning scheme that has really no regard for rural living at all, and it feels good and it removes councils who are delaying things in planning. It has real consequences. If we tried to bring that back arbitrarily, I don't think we can just force it in. But I would note that bushfire is one of the things that I certainly saw many RFIs and many backwards and forwards when it was under the interim scheme of people going, why do I have to do this? It's unnecessary expense, whatever. So it's never going to be a perfect solution. It always just comes down to the applicant informing themselves, having regard to their particular situation. And I do think that a guideline and a suite of, we've already got some, but a suite of guides that assist people to do this. And that is where, when we have someone fronts up for the first time and comes to customer service, we've got that planning officer down there to assist them that's been really useful, who can say, hey, here, I recommend you do these guidelines, you check these things out for your situation. And similarly, our customer service staff, providing that kind of information, yes, you really need to. These are common pitfalls, check this out. You don't need to get a designer at this stage, but you really want to know about it because
You're gonna need it at some stage.
you're going to need it at some stage, and you could spend a whole bunch of time and money and then realise that there's a big gotcha coming.
Yeah.
And ultimately, a bushfire report will in many cases deform design decisions already at planning stage, so I think it's like, in my professional experience, I advise people to get as much information as possible from the beginning, be it a bushfire report, be it a landslip hazard, or whatever else it might be, even if it's not compulsory for planning, because it will help to inform design decisions that will be,
It actually aligns beyond planning. It actually aligns with council's efforts in resilience and preparedness.
Yeah.
Because we don't want people, we want people being fire aware and building appropriate houses and knowing what the costs are up front.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to the person being active in getting, whether it's advice here, it's that advice on getting your road done and making sure that everyone's aware that they should be sending them. Have you got have you been into council? Have you found out what you actually have to do here? Because it's not up to, to an individual to tell you. You need to come in and get proper advice on where you need to go and what you need to do. So thank you for that, Councillor O'Neill, and definitely noted.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Do we have
I do,
any questions without notice?
but perhaps you could go first.
Thank you. I've got a question that kind of started developing over the last few weeks when we've been talking about the structure plan for Signet and the precinct plan for Huonville, the studies and surveys that we've seen about estimated population growth in the area. I recently participated in a webinar about population dynamics and population growth in Tasmania, which highlighted that the Huon Valley is one of 3 councils in Tasmania to be expecting more than the high scenario growth, which is quite significant. When you look at the numbers, pretty much everywhere in Tasmania goes, population is moving away. Huon Valley, with Sorel and one other one are the 3 that are actually growing. So in front of this background, I would just like to know how is our, waste infrastructure, not sewer infrastructure, holding up with all this growth. I remember I tried to find a test water report within the minutes of the few meetings that I've been attending since coming on board. I just couldn't find it anywhere. But do we have any numbers about at which capacity our sewer treatment plants in the Huon Valley are running at the moment? That would basically give us an idea how much growth we can cover with the existing infrastructure. Because I'm again, thinking back on some development and things happening around Signet, I remember a figure that, for example, the Signet treatment plant is running at 65% capacity. I remember that in 2021, the 61 lot subdivision on Channel Highway was approved after the attenuation zone of the sewer treatment plant down there has been reduced. Driving past it today, I noticed there is a real estate sign on the property east of the 61 lot subdivision saying future urban area. So this is kind of, pointing at more residential development. So is our infrastructure in terms of dealing with the sewer in Signet and in the entire municipality fit for all this development and growth that we're facing? And, I understand this is complex and needs probably, information from Test Water, so happy for it to be taken on notice.
Good question. We'll have to take it on notice to get those numbers.
Yeah.
Obviously, Tas Water are investing in sewer treatment plants across the entire valley, have been for a couple of years now. But what that means from a capacity perspective and how well they're planning for the future, we'll need to get some numbers for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Councillor.
Thank you. Just excuse my throat here. I've got a bit of a dry throat. Just touching on what the 2 councillors over there was talking about with the driveway. There was some chitter-chatter on Facebook about council having a responsibility to check driveways to make sure that emergency vehicles can access those driveways because of a sticky situation. A fire truck managed to get themselves into because they didn't realise they couldn't actually get up a driveway. It's not a council responsibility to maintain the driveway. And what does happen though if an emergency vehicle did go onto a property and couldn't make it and sort of got stuck? The property would just burn effectively, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I did sort of say that in a more articulate way than that, but I think the impression is that council are responsible for checking people's properties, but of course I tried to explain that the resources and the management would be so difficult of that.
We've got no jurisdiction to do that.
But that's what I thought also.
It's private infrastructure, and
Yes.
the Tas Fire Service regularly put out information on driveway sort of dimensions guidelines to maintain. They really pick it up ahead of bushfire season. And look, this is one of the many things that private property owners have to be aware of themselves, take responsibility for, clearing low-hanging branches, etc. The fire service just literally will not go up those driveways. They'll back out. It's for their own safety as much as anything.
Absolutely, but I think there's this belief that, if your home's on fire, then someone should get to you and put you out. But I mean, if they can't get to you, they're not going to risk their life, So I just wanted to confirm that.
And I think the local fireys will visit your property and give you that advice, I think. I think they're pretty generous with their time. So if you've got somebody who wants to know if their driveway is accessible, like I know because of all the council trees hanging over my road, the fireys have said, you're on your own. Thank you, council. They're all swamp gums as well, so we can't chop them down.
They're not.
I sort of think there's a fair degree of sort of common sensicalness that should cope with it, really, though, isn't there? Like, if you can't get something wider than a mini up your driveway, you're probably going to have a problem with an emergency vehicle, But I just wanted to make sure that we actually did have, I thought we didn't, but I wanted to make sure, because people think that when we work with, Tas Fire and all the other emergency services, that they think that somehow we're intertwined with having a jurisdiction over maintenance of driveways and everything else, but I was pretty sure we weren't, but I just wanted to double check.
Definitely not. And Tas Fire, they regularly do it on Facebook, and they've also got really good information on their website.
They do.
That shows people all this.
Yeah, they do. I mean, of course, I know people just think that council do everything. Council, unfortunately, don't do everything, but we try. We try. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other questions without notice? No, thank you. We have no notices of motion. Okay, we're on to general reports. Report number 15.0366/25, revision of the risk management policy, GOV/CORP 004. I refer the councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move the motion, please? Councillor Armstrong and Councillor Gibson. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say to people that think there is no risk, risk is real, and I'm glad we have a policy for it.
Thank you. Do I have any? Yes. Councillor Jessup?
That was it.
Oh,
Short and sweet.
Thank
I
you,
know.
Mayor. I have some issues with this policy, Mayor. The first issue is that we had a very long debate in the audit committee about their concern that there hasn't been an effective workshop with councillors and themselves to discuss the risk policy. And to my surprise, I find that we're amending the policy in the next meeting. So I don't know if they're going to see that as inappropriate, because they've actually specifically asked for a workshop to talk about risk in the policy. So that's the first general thing. And in section 8 of the policy, the role of the audit panel is to ensure the accuracy, to review the risk management policy, framework, risk matrix, etc. That's part of the section 8 of the document. I've only been on it for a couple of meetings, but Paul, I don't know if you have reviewed the policy, so I don't think we've followed the policy by getting the audit committee to review it, as per section 8 of the policy. But you haven't reviewed it, no. That's the impression I got from what they were saying. So that's the first sort of general issue is are we dealing with this too soon? Should we do the other stuff? And it seems the only reason why we're amending this is to add in this electronic risk management software, which is probably neither here nor there. I think it said it's not due for review until 2027 anyway. So that's one issue. But then the second issue that I have with it is who sets risk appetite for the Huon Valley Council? And I haven't gone back to legislation because I've been a bit busy, but my assumption is that councillors set the risk appetite and then we work within it. The ATL policy very specifically has the ELT and CEO reviewing the risk appetite statement, but doesn't say who actually sets that. So I think that's a question in my mind. But we should be doing an annual review of the thing and saying, well, are we happy with our financial risk strategy, our infrastructure risk strategy? And it doesn't seem to be anywhere in the policy where that actually sits. So that's what I need to, and I'm wondering if maybe talking about deferring the motion to give the CEO a chance to talk to the chair of the audit committee about because they were pretty, fair to say that they were pretty strong on the need for the workshop, I think. That was my
Unfortunately, the staff weren't at the last meeting, and so we couldn't really get into it. But I think there were some really good points raised by the audit panel about sort of traffic light system of how risks, how you see at a glance which risks are the ones that we should pay attention to straight away. There's a whole lot of other stuff too.
I mean, audit committee or panel were also, have been consistently complimentary about the significant inroads we've made in risk management.
Absolutely.
And getting to this point, and yes, whilst through sickness, we couldn't get into the detail that we were supposed to in that meeting, which was really what triggered their position. I have no problem if we defer this. It's a revision. It is a relatively modest revision to bring in to deal with. I'd ask for General Counsel's advice on what risk that entails if we, are we better off just doing this minor revision to bring in our risk management software so that we've, it's in play whilst coming back and doing all the stuff that we're on track to do. But as you say, are we jumping the gun?
And the software they were quite complimentary of as well, by the way. But they were pretty pointed in saying that they had been promised a workshop previously and that hadn't happened.
Through the Mayor. I've got no note for Councillor Jessup, thank you. Also noting Councillor Jessup was the only member after the first councillor workshop we had where Matt Grimsey introduced that we were going to review this policy. We invited all councillors to actually seek access to the electronic risk register, and Councillor Jessup did so. The content or the intent behind the original review of this policy was made at a time where we had this policy. It was quite old, and it didn't actually reflect any of the algorithms or decisions, for example, the way in which the current risk appetite was created through the Deloitte risk management workshops with councillors and ELT in 2003. So the intention from the Office of General Counsel was to bring the document that we had up to speed so that the language and steps embedded in the digital risk reliance program, which councillors approved for the purchase of it, to establish that risk register. So the intent of the revision was set upon modernising and making it contemporary with what was currently there. To present at the time the strategic risk register that we've been working on for 12 months and the policy simultaneously. Completely, yes, as everyone knew, I was sick and missed the last audit panel. I can confirm that since February of 2024, when I've been attending the audit panel and working on this project, sorry about the voicing of that, there had been no intimation or directions given by the audit panel about the policy. It was actually never mentioned. The focus of the audit panel in complying with its requirements, that is, its overview of strategic risk of the council, which is an order of the under local government orders, which enhances the role of the audit panel to cover risk and what it does, its oversight, as it were. There'd been no suggestion of the risk policy. That was an innovation that we had put forward that needed to be done. So that was the intent. So that intent predates any comments that were made by audit panel members last week.
And I note that it was only commented on because it was an agenda item. So had the risk register not been on the agenda, they might not have mentioned it. But
Yes,
we spent,
it's never been flagged as a
I reckon
workshop
we
for the audit
spent,
panel today, but that's an oversight we can deal with. Be that as it may.
But I think that's been a good hour. It was a long discussion.
Probably because we weren't there.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it
But
would
be
have
that
been
as it
sure.
may, the idea of there's no problem with bringing it all into alignment. The work's been done on this today, so we know that the text and the language and the embedment of the Australian standard as the risk management best practice, as it were, is all there in place, and it's in plain English, the roles and responsibilities. So we've got a better template, may I suggest, to take to the audit panel for discussion and representing that perhaps in another councillor workshop prior to it coming back to council for approval. What would you say to that, councillor?
I suppose my main concern is I think we're approving it prior to going through those other steps, which I'm not saying that's consider disrespectful, but they certainly were very engaged with the risk discussion, and as you know, the Act gives them a fairly significant role in the risk stuff. So I was surprised when I saw it on the agenda that it was just a consequence of timing, but I wonder if it's maybe worth.
It's on the agenda tonight because there was no prior knowledge of the audit panel having directions to the contrary. And I've not read the minutes of the audit panel
They've
meeting.
not made directions the contrary per se,
No.
but it's just a
It
juxtaposition.
feeds into it, yeah.
Enthusiastic and excited that we're making such inroads, and they're pushing. So I welcome that. So it's just getting the balance right. So, but sorry.
Yeah, we'll define it. We'll defer it.
The suggestion is defer it,
Yeah.
and we put this draft to
okay.
the audit panel. Yeah, there's no problem. But is there a continuing to have our, we continue to persist with our risk management software, et cetera, at the moment, without a policy.
Well,
modernised?
we've got, in the meantime, yes. I don't foresee this as being a long delay. Would you,
No,
councillor Jessup? You
And
think it's a,
we've done the workshop with whoever they were, Deloitte or whoever, and we've approved separately the purchase of the risk software anyway. So all of those things have been done appropriately. This is really the capstone that brings it all together, which probably is a point where I think the audit panel was interested to
Look at it.
and do it jointly. I think as a shared, because it is a shared responsibility between ALT, us, and the audit panel.
So to defer then,
defer, take it in its current state to the next audit panel, quarterly meeting of audit panel, and then out of that, because we only have 2 councillors who are on the audit panel, we then have another councillor workshop on the subject, or we introduce it, add it to another councillor workshop.
The audit panel members were happy to join council.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think you need to do it
So
separately.
not in the,
Yeah, and my apologies that I was in and out of that meeting, as you know, so I haven't picked up, but we should have just actually deferred this one probably, based on that, so, yeah.
It would be a good, it's the excellent starting point for workshopping it. I suppose that's what I'm feeling, so that's, if we can fit a workshop in the process. Sorry for those who don't get excited about risk, but I quite like
No, it's
risk
important.
discussion.
We can tell.
so do we then have to vote to defer?
yes, you will.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
And that only defers to one meeting though.
So you moved the motion and councillor Gibson seconded, So do you both agree to defer?
Well, if that's the process and it has to be, then yes, I'm fine with that. But I actually think we've been kept in the loop and discuss risk a lot. I don't think we're missing anything from ELT or anybody else, but if we have to comply with the audit panel, then that's what it will have to be.
We don't have to comply, but
No.
it's been
The audit panel doesn't fetter your discretion to make decisions here in council meeting.
But it just might save us having to go back and rehashing it in.
I'm fine with it. It's a policy. I'm okay with the policy being deferred.
So are you happy with that? And then,
I
yep,
mean, as the seconder, I'm happy to
Happy to-
change that motion to defer.
all right.
Or
So we
do,
do-
do we change motion to defer or do we refer it to a workshop? Is that the better motion?
Defer to a next council workshop?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it'll fit though. I do beg your pardon.
Just
I
don't
think
do next, just do to a
next
workshop.
available, to a workshop, because I think
And
you've
that way
got
we're not set on
schedule.
having to re-look at it in a month's time.
We'll just,
Yeah.
we'll do a reshuffle. We want to
Yeah.
get this one moving, but we've got his full dance card, but
Yeah.
we can sort that out.
And invite independent audit.
And invite the audit panel, yep.
Yes,
I was
councillor.
going to suggest if the independent audit panel can't
That's right.
attend a workshop because they,
They seem pretty keen.
yeah, but we've tested it before when I was on audit panel and the times never matched up and it just never happened. So it's just from experience. But if the expectation is that we take this back, I'd like the independent members to also provide some written advice to come back into council. So the community, so then the community can also see the role that the independent members are playing. Because obviously our councillor members are here talking about it, but
Yeah.
just to intensify, or not intensify, but legitimise the feedback
They're intense.
and sort of value that in a public sense as well, because audit panel generally is not a publicly accessible.
And to reiterate what CEO said about, the audit panel is very keen on what's happening and very appreciative of the work the council's doing. But it was more about how the presentation comes out and how that's read and how they can tweak that. That's what their main concerns.
Just to manage expectations, I just got some advice that that the chair of the audit panel did say to do this post we're in audit season at the moment, so it'll be 2 months before we do that.
That's fine.
Because at the next meeting will be taken up by the audit report anyway, so they won't.
Yeah, as long as you guys are comfortable with that.
Are you comfortable with that?
Oh, I'm fine with it. I mean, we already have risk management in place anyway. We're just adding a bit and confirming and keeping them happy. I'm happy if they're happy. I'm happy if everyone's happy.
Never make everyone.
Yep,
I can never make everyone happy.
okay, so we're going to get,
Councillors, I've just done just a very simple. So the recommendation is changed to the following, that A, the report on the revision of the risk management policy be received and noted, full stop. B, having been so reviewed, the draft will be deferred to the next councillor workshop, full stop. C, any further report will include a written recommendation from the audit panel as to the revised draft policy, full stop.
B can't be to the next one. It's just do a workshop.
To
a
A.
workshop.
A workshop.
And maybe add into that one where the independent audit panel members are invited or something.
And are invited
Invited because
to,
as
into the
Councillor
workshop.
says, there's a high chance that things won't.
Just
align.
invited, because it's hard enough to get all of us into the same room regularly to then add 2 independent members. As much as important it is, it's just,
Yeah, it has
it's
been
a big
logistics. Yeah, it's logistics when we've tried have been
Could
difficult.
they watch the recording? Could we share a recording with them?
I think
So
they
they
want
could
to,
actually-
they want to
Part of it.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they can make an effort to attend.
Oh, I'm sure they'll try. Yeah.
I'm sure, yes.
Are you happy
Thank
with
you, very,
the
yes.
revised recommendation?
just a question too, and then they would receive an additional sitting allowance beyond what we budgeted for panel 2 if they were to attend a workshop, or is it just going to be clear that it's going to be voluntary?
They have to be paid.
Yeah, just to note that there's a budget implication.
But maybe we can lose a subsequent audit meeting. Or we'll make it coincide with one of our existing audit meetings.
Yeah,
Certain ones we have to have though.
I think that's the other thing. I mean, and by just saying workshop, I think that we can extend that to be, you could make it an agenda, like the agenda item for the next audit panel meeting.
Yeah,
That
that's
way,
right.
that's their natural time, they've got it scheduled, and we
Yeah.
get around that.
Councillors for the audit panel.
Correct.
They're always invited.
Yeah, the invitation's always open anyway.
Yeah.
You can attend.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just not meant to
But
participate
it would
as
be,
invited.
it would just be make this the agenda item
Yeah.
for that,
Yep.
for that workshop. So, yeah.
All right, are you happy with?
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
All right, everyone, then I vote on the revised recommendation. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors present. Thank you. Report number 15.037/25. Revision of the Managing Unacceptable Customer Behaviour Policy, GOV CORP 022. Do I have a councillor to move the recommendation in this report? Yep, councillor Armstrong, seconder. Councillor O'Neill. Do you wish to speak to this one,
I
councillor?
don't think there's very much to say about this. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or
Comment.
statements on this one?
Comment there. If possible, if we could actually show the changes marked up, because I had to go back to the paper and go, so there's a change here, but I couldn't see what the changes were and I didn't have time to go back to the original policy. So if just when we submit it, if we can put the edit marks on, that would be handy.
Through the Mayor, please. Councillor Jessup, you might recall all those weeks ago when I talked about this one, there were over 1,002 keystroke format changes to the document. Because of that, it would have been completely unreadable. I have endeavoured where there's a difference between a format edit and a substantive edit, that will literally take me 4 hours to do that. And I have endeavoured to do that. I did it for the code, for example, councillor, when there was the revision of the code for tenders and contracts. I took the time because I understand as a lawyer the importance of track changes. It's an informative tool, but sometimes that information tool can make it, and I know Councillor Armstrong talks a lot about making it as easy as possible for everybody to understand who's very busy. That is why in this case, because there was so much professional reformatting done. I did apologise in the report. I did highlight that in the report to councils. That's why you weren't provided with a marked up version. But this was essentially, in terms of the substantive additions, councillor, the biggest one was making sure that the practical feedback loop of improvement and innovation that we got from in the implementation of 12 months of this policy was enacted. I also was wanted to make the document flow as a codified procedure. So a lot of, I do apologise, but sometimes given time constraints that we have, a marked up document will always not be possible. But from here on in with this document, you would see less and less changes and therefore it's much easier to present a track change document.
And maybe to think of a better way, maybe of go through and do your formatting changes and sign that off. But then any substantive wording changes, because that's more I'm interested just in is.
Yeah, look, absolutely. The efficiencies of coming to council to revise reformatting, the efficacy of that is a question, and we could. I don't know what councillors' view, but I feel strange about saying I've presented this, it looks better now, you don't need to see it. I'm not sure Section 28 of the Local Government Act is on side there when it comes to the importance of council requiring. So anyway, so substantively, Councillor Jessup, what did you make of it?
I think it flows well, thank you for asking. And I felt that the bits that I felt important last time were still there. So I was happy, so I moved on.
Yeah, good. Good to hear.
I would, if I may, Councillor, just note I am mindful and respectful that Councillor Jessup has raised before his concern about the potentiality of such a policy being used on a discriminatory basis. I know that discrimination is a point.
Absolutely.
I would argue, and reassure councillor and all councillors that this new improved version and the templates, I think Councillor Jessup, you did look at the other templates, the suite of templates used to implement this. From the moment of a UCB incident form being lodged, the checks and balances to prevent and to guard against a discriminatory action or a punitive action based on gender, gender identification, ethnicity, nationality, all of those things are taken into consideration.
And that's primarily what I was trying to find, is just that no safeguards hadn't been lost accidentally or.
They have been enhanced, I would argue, councillor, through the use of templates that will be protected, as it were, so there can be no arbitrary changing of those. They give the CEO an exercise of discretion, a very clear, this is the process you have to follow, this is the embedding of principle and law in the making of decisions, and those are embedded safeguards against the things that I know you're so concerned about, and quite rightly.
Thanks.
Thank you, councillor.
Thank you. Do I have any other? Do you don't wish to close on that?
So in other words, we've got our bases covered. Are you happy with that? Yes, you.
The mayor.
No,
Mayor's
you.
always happy. No, I just, I think it's a good policy. Hopefully we don't have to use it. But, you know, we always need to be.
We do, and I think the thing is, you know, Sandra could tick all these boxes and have absolutely everything in the world covered and explain it to us in a language that we understand. Then somebody else would come in with something completely left of field that isn't in there, that would not actually be a part of making up a behavioural issue for us to deal with. So I think it's good because I can understand the policy the way that it's written, which I think is good for other people to understand it. And we have discussed it, so we also know what it involves and whatnot. But it's like everything, I guess, you know, if there's something that comes up that's omitted, we can pop it in there later, and
That's what this demonstrates.
you know, that's it.
This is a 12-month review.
Yeah,
Very-
absolutely.
Very open.
You know, we put other things in from before. We will probably next year we'll put other things in, but I'm really happy with it because, you know, I think from when I looked at it, well, I didn't even understand what I was reading really. Like, let's face it, when I was all green and fresh and new, I thought I was all over stuff, but I really wasn't. I think it's great. I like it. I like that we can read things now. I like that I can understand it properly and then translate that to somebody else.
Well done.
You happy with
Thank
that? Is that good?
It's not about me being happy, Deb, but thank you for trying to please me. But no,
You just look at me with this look and I'm not quite sure what that means.
Well, we'll take a vote then and we'll make sure.
let's all be happy.
You don't mind us.
So I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
I'm never
That's
sure
all
whether you're gonna
councillors.
do that with something
Motion's
else.
carried. Thank you.
Honest.
I'd just like to let you have a say, Mark.
Oh, thanks for that, councillor Armstrong. Report number 15.038/25, lease of public land, Port Huon Sports Centre mezzanine level. Do I have a councillor to move this? Yes, councillor O'Neill, and a seconder, councillor Bruzzo. You wish to speak to this one, councillor O'Neill?
I think we covered this pretty well in the last closed meeting. We're all on top of it, so I'm happy with it.
Thank you. Do I have any other comments on this one? Good. Okay, well, if that's the case, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors. The motion's carried. Report number 16.012/25, Finance Report, August 2025. I refer the councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor move the motion? Councillor Jessup, and seconded by Councillor Rozak. To wish to speak to this one, Councillor Jessup?
No, Mayor, it's early days from a finance point of view. We haven't got through the first quarter yet, so it is what it is. Obviously, we'll see some changes with some of the additional things that we're looking at and maybe the grant impact of the grant and stuff, but we won't see that until October, November, I suspect. So it is what it is. It looks like it's going in the right direction.
Thank you. Do I have any other? Okay, then I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors. And the motion is carried. Report number 16.013/25, the financial reserves as at 30th of June 2025. I'll refer the councillors to recommendation of this report. Do other councillors move the motion, please? Councillor Armstrong and seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Now, do you wish to speak to this one?
Thanks, Mayor.
Do I have any questions or comments? No? Okay. Well, I'll put that forward. All those in favour, please raise your hand. It's all present. The motion is carried. Report number 16.014/25, Retirement Village Fee Amendment. I refer the councillors to recommendation. Do I have a councillor to move the motion, please? Councillor O'Neill and seconded Councillor Jessup. Do you wish to speak to this one, Councillor O'Neill?
Not really. I think things are going up a little bit, but not too much.
No probs. Do I have any other?
Summary, yeah.
The balance, yep.
Do I have any other statements or yes?
We don't index our rental to the pension pay rise or anything like that, do we? That's this is the only way we rise that. Yeah, and I think it's a fair comment to make that virtually every social housing provider indexes their rentals to the pension pay rise, so people get 2 pay rises a year, and that's how social housing works. I think we're very generous in that sense here.
Okay, do I have any other? Yes, Councillor.
Perhaps more of a question and related but not specific to this. Have we thought about the future of these retirement villages?
Yes.
We did a report on it.
I know we've done a report on it, but I mean really think about it.
Definitely. Yeah.
Because I noticed that they're not really, I mean, that they're only minimally not breaking even. But I don't think that we should be in this space. I don't think social housing and should really be a council, thing.
We'll continue to do it through workshops, and then ultimately through council decisions, bring more information back to councillors. Obviously, we just want to make sure that people aren't left in the lurch, and that we're encouraging. There's a need. There's a greater need than what we provide for social housing in the Huon Valley, and aged housing. So our strategy, while I think around the table, is that we ideally wouldn't be in this space. We want to get out of it with good grace and in a way that can encourage more of it to be developed, and provide better outcomes for people. So that's a challenge to do that right, rather than just drop it.
It is a challenge, and I feel really uncomfortable that we're kind of determining who gets a home and who doesn't get a home. It's not our field of expertise, as we've mentioned before. But I also think there's fairness that comes into the community, that we hold the keys to homes that, it's all very complicated, isn't it?
It is, and that's why it's not a simple solution that we're working through really carefully. But the councillors have been clear that they want us to investigate this, and that's a big part of the business enterprise unit's objectives, to work out what we do into the future.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, not that I'm overly concerned about a minor loss, because let's face it, we have other things that don't make money also.
It's not. Yeah, it's not a.
It's not that.
It's not a significant financial
No, it's
issue.
not.
It's a social issue, and
It is a social issue.
Any of the things we do that's it. It's sort of with the community's interest is what we're here for. It's not to make it. It's not to be a revenue generator.
No, it's not.
It breaks even, so it's on a financial sense it's low risk, but it's got all sorts of other.
I just think it's an uncomfortable area for me. As a councillor, I don't think we should be making decisions about where people live and don't live, and then others don't. And it is difficult.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just checking in to see how we were going.
There'll be follow-ups on the information that we've had on the work we've done today.
That'd be good.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other? I'll put that recommendation forward. All those in favour, please raise your hand. It's all councillors. The motion is carried. Report number 16.015/25, new asset purchase, internal waste cartage bins. I refer the councillors the recommendation. Do I have a councillor to move? Yes, councillor Rozak, a seconder. Councillor O'Neill. Do you wish to speak to this one, councillor Rozak?
Mayor, can I
Councillor-
have the mover and the seconder again?
Councillor Rozak for the mover and councillor O'Neill for the seconder. Do you wish to speak to this one?
Just briefly, thank you, Mayor. I think it's a great investment, somewhat surprising, but still a great investment, especially looking at the numbers. Section or paragraph 20 in the report is stating that there is an existing budget allocation of 81,000 roughly. Is that annually for our internal cartage operations? So that covers all the operational costs, I understand, but if we're spending 130 now and don't have to spend 80 grand a year in the future, then this is obviously a huge saving, so I think it's worthwhile spending this money.
It's not entirely that good because we've still got our trucks and our drivers, etc. So we do get a positive return over the life of them, but it's not a you don't wipe your hands of that for $80,000 a year. So yeah.
Yeah, no. Still, it kind of strikes a good balance, I think, for what I understand out of it. So yeah, happy to buy some new bins.
Good. Yes, councillor O'Neill, then councillor Jessup.
I just, have we already awarded the contract to a builder, or
No.
is that to go out of tender? Okay.
We've already taken quotes. This is based on competitive quotes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so local companies be able to tender for this?
It's not a tender.
Sorry, it's quotes. I think 2 local companies or at least
Local
one.
business will be taken in consideration,
Yeah.
identification,
That's my thing. Yep.
go as wide as possible.
Thank you.
Yes, councillor Jessup.
I note that there's a $81,000 operating budget that sits on the books at the moment. The capital cost of $135,000 is only $7,000 a year over the 20-year life, and that's fantastic. But given that we've had a tenderer withdraw or a current service provider withdraw from the process, have we market tested that it's more cost effective for us to do it? And then have we actually gone to the market to see if there are others who want to do it for us? Because, you know,
Yes.
yes, and we found, because that wasn't slightly fully described in the
Well, we are
document.
an open council and there's quite a bit of commercial and confidence
So
tied
should
up
we be
in that.
dealing with this in closed council, because we're effectively taking something out of the market.
If you
And
want to ask those kind of questions, then yes, we should take it into closed council.
I do feel that I probably need to ask those questions.
Sure.
So if we can, we'll just defer this.
Defer into closed. If the rest of you are comfortable with that.
Just to be
Say,
comfortable that we've
Are you
done
two happy to take that into closed? All right. Okay. Do we need to vote on that? To take it into closed?
It's just been deferred in the
Just
same-
been deferred in the same council meeting. Okay, all right. You happy with that? Yep, all right.
Thank you.
We move on to report number 17.006/25, Chieftain Town Hall Controlling Authority. I refer the councillors to recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move the motion or the recommendation, please? Yes, councillor Armstrong, a seconder. Councillor Thorpe. Do you wish to open or speak about this, councillor
Well,
Armstrong?
this is going to confuse people entirely, isn't it? Because after we told everybody what was happening with the Geeston Hall because they were different to all the other halls, now this hall's different to everybody else. I think it's good. I think it'll give them some independence to go forward and grow, and I think that, you know, we can, you're just processing what I said, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about why is it, why are they different?
Because we were asked a question when we commenced the whole committee transition, why isn't Geeston having to do that? Because they were under a different process, and it turned out that they were all different processes anyway, but Geeston being, you know, a big hole and everything else.
That's not quite right. All the others were of a type.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
had a different risk profile.
Yes.
Jeefson was different, so it was dealt
Yes.
with differently.
Yeah.
So this is the result of
But that-
conversations
that's-
with that more advanced model of governance
Yes.
that they had.
Yeah.
And hence we come to this conclusion,
Yes.
which does look like it's, again,
Well,
it's
I
not
think
just-
I think this is good because this also has a different usage, a different purpose, a different need. So I'm really excited that, if they can get some support, I think Jeefson, especially in this particular place is perfect for them going out sort of on their own, if you like, but it's not really on their own. A bit more independently.
It's a very different hall, like all our halls are different and lend themselves to different
But
things.
this is really unique.
It is a very
Yeah.
unique thing. It's not a performance space or all that sort of stuff. So it lends itself to the operation that
There's
they've got.
interesting things going on down there too, so I think
It's not a
it's.
hall to hire out,
No,
as
it's
in
not.
the space, like
No.
the big area of it.
You
It's
can't
not
have a
like,
ball there.
no, you can't
No.
have something like
And
that.
that shindig down there.
No, you can't.
Well, you
You can't have a ball there.
can't.
No,
Unless you put yourself in a corner and.
but there is a meeting room at the back, which
There is
is
a
not.
It's a meeting
No,
room,
but
that's
it's-
upstairs.
Oh, I have some questions.
Of course you do.
Mayor, if I can ask some
Yeah.
questions? So I suppose, look, my perception is we're almost taking it to a model that's in line with the other halls anyway.
Yeah.
But you look at Signet Hall, which is probably the most comparable hall, we go through quite a process to tender that, and we put ourselves through a lot of pain to tender the association to be in that. So I suppose that's one question, is why are we doing this model slightly differently, where we're actually not tendering it, we're just saying to a group, you become an association, we'll give it to you. So that's sort of the first question.
Sorry, what tender are you referring to?
So when we tender rooms at the Signet Hall, for example, or parts of the Signet Hall,
When we were renewing leases.
yeah, leases, yeah. So effectively we're leasing parts of that hall to different groups.
Yep.
We're effectively giving a lease to this association with no governance process overarching it. So I just raise that as a concern, not necessarily say it's the wrong thing to do, but we need to be clear with that. So there's some specific things in the motion. We're saying that the Town Hall Authority needs to undertake some community engagement. Should we be asking them to do the community engagement, or should we be doing the community engagement about that? Because, and I don't know, and I've not been lobbied by anybody on this, so I don't know if there's different groups of people, and does this include the community hall as well as the town hall? So there's, well, that's, yep, so there's sort of issues there. So that's sort of, so I'm just wondering if we should be, and I know our community engagement people of one are pretty busy, but is this a town meeting we should be running, and do we want to run it? There's, anyway, so that's the first question with it. And the controlling authority was established by council with quite a detailed paper here. So there were safeguards built in. It was a very structured process. There was a lot of community pain. And now what we're saying is, can you guys just go away and set yourself up as an association, and we'll trust you that there's appropriate governance and community engagement? Who gets elected to that association? We haven't seen a constitution for that association, so should we have some safeguard where the dot point that says a new body, being a legal entity, is to establish, to take over, blah, 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 to the satisfaction of council? So should we be asking that they lodge their articles of association with us, so we can actually show that there is proper community?
And that's the intent of that statement in there, and that's literally what I'm talking to that group about.
A new body,
You can
being a
make-
legal entity, is to be established to take over all responsibilities, functions and purpose of the association of the authority to the satisfaction of the council. Well, that doesn't are you saying there that you are expecting to sign off the structure of that association on the strength of that?
We're literally collaborating with them. So if you want to change the words to be more specific,
Do we
no
need to be
problem.
more tighter? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we can tighten up that, and maybe after satisfaction of the council, comma, including their council, is articles of association the right word? So constitution, their,
The
yeah.
Constitution, really, yeah.
Yep. So I'd just like council staff to sign off on that, to make sure that there is appropriate governance. But then the broader issue is this a two-stage process? Do we make a decision to disband the controlling authority and put it out to tender to an appropriate community-based organisation? Or do we just go through and say we're going to establish a community-based organisation and give it to them? In which case, do we then say that there needs to be a 2-year review process or something? And ultimately, would we want to tender this going forward? Like the Signet Hall.
I'll just say, like, the difference with Signet is Signet was exclusive, long-term exclusive leases on smallish meeting rooms that were, depends who you ask, but they were not, the public accessibility was very different to what Jeeveston's trying to do. It's an open hall, welcoming people in, and really functioning as a town hall. It invites people in, does all the tourism functions, etc. So I think there's some pretty key differences in how they operate, and the concept of leasing Jeeveston as we either appreciate what they do for the town in their current operating model.
And I do think they do a lot for the town, absolutely.
Yeah, and if we do, I think it would be very hard to tender. I don't
know how we do
how we would do that. I can't here and now wrap my head around how we would do that. It would literally be tendering the building. There is a building to come in and do, and we would put a community purpose lens over the top of that if we were to do it, but you could not guarantee you get the same result. So really what we're saying, this recommendation is about, they have a successful model that's appreciated by the town to be tested by that public consultation that we will support them and collaborate with them on, which I'm doing. But they run it, and we support it because it has to go to their volunteers and all sorts of stuff. So we'll be there hand in glove with them. So we appreciate what they're doing. We support them through that to ostensibly continue the operation that they're doing under a lease agreement and under a constitution, which we do look at and say, does this demonstrate that there's that ongoing community benefit of this long-term use that we want to continue?
And access to the community to use parts of it from, not obviously not for a shindig, but maybe for an art exhibition or something like that. Yeah, and I think that there needs to be some mechanism that's built into that. Yeah, because my fear is, do we create a situation like we've had in some of the halls where the authority or the group takes ownership of the hall and doesn't let anybody else use it. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but yeah, that's part of the consultation. I think we need to look at what the mechanism is, and also part of the articles of association. There needs to be triggers for community members to approach them to use it, sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it would be my intention in looking at those articles of association, to share that with councillors and get that feedback, because our core thing is any of our public assets need to be run for the public and used for the public benefit. That's I mean, I can't speak on behalf of the Jeeveston Town Hall, but they are very proud of the public benefit that they've provided down there, and it's their entire intent is to continue to do that, albeit under a model that gives them more freedom, more access to funding, and moves away from a time where there was a feeling and need that council provided this overarching risk framework, and we wanted this control and whatever else, which we've demonstrated through the hall reviews and all the rest of it, that the protection doesn't really exist, it's skin deep, but the risks are very, very real.
So this is actually what you're saying, an evolution of the controlling authority to something better.
Well, the controlling authority had to be there to start because the people that were in there, which was Sustainable Timbers, moved out.
And I certainly understand what they're saying, what they've said in their correspondence about access to grants and all that sort of stuff. And I do. I think there's good reasoning for it, but let's just make sure we don't create it into a point of division within the community, I suppose.
Yeah, and the controlling authority has a mechanism whereby council has oversight of that. But under the new arrangement, I don't see what that oversight is, except it's an annual. Is it proposes an annual renewal of the arrangement, or is it just?
Well, at the moment, like if you want to be on the controlling authority, it can only be when they have someone step down and they put someone forward.
Yeah.
If it's, depending on how they go about their structure, it's like in 12 months' time, the Chieftain Progress Association or whatever they could be might be on there, and they might be the ones that are doing what happens. I just think that this actually gives the town a little bit more being able to step in. They've got a lawyer and an accountant and all at the moment, which is giving them some good lead in where they're heading to. So they will come up with a good their own constitution.
I think the current group, what you're saying is absolutely true around the current people managing it, but there's no sort of checks and balances in that as things change for this new body, whatever it's to be called.
But if they're not, the community will let council know. If whoever's in there and running it, if they're still hoping to run it as it is now by opening it up for tourists and do whatever, if that's not happening, the town will soon let council know that the ones that are in there aren't.
I agree, but then what's the mechanism for us acting?
It's part C of the recommendation. So their lease is dependent.
Yeah.
Their lease is dependent on them being a sporting and community organisation under our lease policy. So, sorry, and it's public land.
So,
So
maximum period of time you can have a lease without going to EOI.
So
the
this
lease becomes
this will move to normal EI processes going forward for leasing.
as public
For leasing.
land.
Yeah.
It would fall within sections 175 to 179 of the Local Government Act. Five is the maximum period of time without going to EOI.
So, and that's one of the questions I'm asking. So this will become a normal leasing process, like for a sports club or whatever.
that's the consistency piece. Is it falls under that from a equity of lease costs, as well as the provisions of renewal and demonstrating that ongoing community benefit. It's being treated like any other community or sporting facility association, etc.
So the first part, B, really is an interim process to establish a new.
They establish all that, those articles, etc., etc. We look at it and we go, this is in line with what you're currently doing. It meets our community our community purpose provisions, and then the lease is the instrument that carries that forward.
So they automatically get a lease if they meet the requirements in B. And what's the term of that lease? Or does that come back to the council to be leased?
So then they become the standard 5-year leases.
Under our lease policy,
So does that need to be?
C.1.
Yeah.
So C1 is, okay, anywhere.
And the thing is, we don't want to be creating, like to your point, we don't want to be creating some special other circumstance case and other reach-in. It is standardising this, and it is also a signal. I mean, there are groups that still, are contemplating, why can we form an association and literally and run for the community benefit as demonstrated? Can we have more ownership? Can we have a lease on a particular other asset? The Palais, for example. Council has already said we're open to that idea. So this also signals that the way this will work is you will be applied this exact same policy. You would need to meet the same, conditions. They're no different, and it means it's a whole lot more transparent and consistent for us to consider those kind of arrangements.
And it has been different to the other halls
Yeah.
because it hasn't. It is different, and it's had stock in there, and it's had artwork that belongs to others, and to be able to hire it out for other, like for a 50th wedding anniversary is not the same as hiring the main room in the Cygnet Town Hall or the Palais in their main room. I know they have their other rooms that have done things, but there's been a main hall. We've got the small meeting room up above the bank area.
And that can be leased separately on the system, I know.
That's right. Yeah, and that's Space to Coat. The actual hall, the actual town hall itself, when it was made into that for a reason, was for tourists and information. It just
Not
plays a different.
structurally a
It's
hall.
no.
It's not structurally a whole.
Cool, thank you.
So do you have any? Is there any other questions, Anne, on that, or no?
Will this come back to, so when will this come back to council, or does it not, that this is it? Is that,
When we need to enter into that lease agreement, then.
It'll come.
Oh, sorry.
C.
Oh, that I can do it. Yeah, sure. So, sorry, thank you. So C of the recommendation actually gives me the authority to carry through with that lease from this point. If you want it to come back to councillors so that you can review what we've just been talking about, I don't have a problem with that. That's there for efficiency. But noting what you're talking about, you can just strike that bit.
and there's no huge time pressure on this, is there?
Well, for them it is. Yeah. I mean, we're getting.
I don't think that within having to wait for a council meeting though is going to add substantially to their time pressure.
But yeah, given that we're saying we're disbanding the existing structure, we're giving a nod to this entity to morph itself. I have no problem then that the CEO's got the option to sign the lease. Yeah, the only safeguard would we then say, but it's no more than a 3-year lease, and then it's got to come back through the public tender process in 3 years' time.
Is that
sort of,
in line with our policy?
Well, we can issue a 1-year lease or a 5-year lease. We've done different lease periods, I think, from memory, haven't we?
We've got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know
Maximum 5 without an EOI, yes.
obviously pulling up that instrument as well, but
Because then
we
it
do.
gives them a couple of years to settle in and get established and.
The other thing though is that we do have options in that lease that if the community purpose isn't being met, you can terminate that lease. So
Oh, that's true.
so it's sort of
That's the sort of mechanism you need.
and that's I would rather rely on that standard mechanism that give them the go ahead to get some time to find their feet, do the rest of it, and if they're not meeting that obligation, that we then exercise termination rights.
Cool. I'm happy with that. And the other comment, C2, we're giving them the lift to maintain. Is that fair? Like lifts are not cheap to maintain. Is that so? Yeah, we're.
Excluding
Excluding the
the heat pump.
heat pumps and the lift.
Oh, that's what that EX says in front of that. Yeah.
I'm thinking,
Well
what are
done.
you
That's
on
a good
about?
point. I'm really glad that you've noted that we're not forcing them to sign it. I'll shut up now.
I was going, great, that'll help my bottom line if you want to give them the lift back.
Could have been a little bit risky as well.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, we forgot to get that service this year.
No, and that's exactly why that's really part of the the essential services in that building now, and making sure that they're as the lessor, we really have responsibility to make sure those things are maintained appropriately.
fabric.
Yeah, yep. So, so if you are comfortable with me having that under C, being able to go through with it, I would share with you guys anyway to make sure that this is how this is demonstrating. So, yeah.
I guess the only reason to change that is sort of in the interest of transparency and having everything sort of out in the open with other community members in Jeeves, and that would be the only reason I would see that it comes back around for another look.
And that's really the first point, isn't it, about the consultation? So we need to be consulted on the consultation. And how would you feel, Lockie, about CEO, about giving us more responsibility to undertake that community engagement? Just in terms of transparency, I think you're asking them to go and ask some mates, and I'm sure they wouldn't do this, but we're effectively saying go and ask some mates and see if they're okay with it.
That's not at all what we're asking, but all what they've proposed.
So have they proposed an approach?
Yeah, they have.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what?
That we would support through our mechanisms as well. So surveys, surveys for their volunteers, surveys within the township, and just and broader. So social media driven surveys akin to what we do, and some.
So are we giving an exact survey, or are they going to do that?
No, we would support it through our channels as well, but they would come up with it in consultation with me. So I'm actively working with them on what this looks like, the context that we would provide. So all the background to this kind of stuff. They're working on articles, etc., to give people context to support that. And then I'm missing one bit. The other part of surveys would be people that are attending the feast.
Yeah,
so seeking feedback through that attendance, which draws people in from outside of Geeveston as well, which we've found is akin to the kind of the survey feedback we seek at markets and things like that. So so it's very much not just ask you mate.
I'm sure they wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
Can we include that it goes through our council Facebook page,
yes,
etc.?
we will promote that,
and that people can come directly to council with comments in case there's somebody who's
this is all part of our are we the doer or are we a facilitator? So in this case we're facilitating it, we would be amplifying their stuff through our channels, etc. But ultimately they're an existing association, well recognised, doing their thing, and it's for them to hear that primarily for them to hear that feedback and respond to it as they consider what their articles look like and their way forward, which is why I do want them to lead that.
Because we've got to remember, this has not come about from people complaining that they're not doing their job. Yeah, this is, yes, that's right.
More efficient
Yes.
process.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, are you?
Yep, so I think too, that's all been a really good discussion, but when we started this process of the changes in the halls, part of our conversation, I remember, was that we didn't want to empower people to be responsible for their own community and try and engage as much of that as we possibly could. So to me, we're sort of mentoring them through the change a little bit. But they've got so many more opportunities now than what they had when they, if we would have a whole committee or whatever they used to be before, and especially for Geeveston, because they probably don't have the population like other places do, and they don't have probably.
When you've got 40 volunteers that are on the...
They're doing pretty well.
They're doing pretty good.
But that's what I mean. But they're probably connected to most of the people that are going to come to them. Whereas the other halls, we have lots of things going on, but they need to draw as much attention to the hall as they possibly can, effectively, don't they? So I think it's really good that they're going out on a limb and starting this new thing and getting new grants, and I hope they do quite well. But, they've sort of got Big Brother backing them up, haven't they? So it'll be okay. We're helping them. And at the end of the day, the hall belongs to the people. So if it goes belly up, it goes belly up, doesn't it? Like it's not.
The important thing. It's land. It's community purpose
Exactly.
land. It's fundamental. It's planning uses.
Yeah.
Restrict. They can't just suddenly say we're going to do some commercial enterprise, whatever there.
Yeah.
And that's in line with their intent anyway. I mean,
I mean, we have to sort of let people have a crack at things, because we've said to them, you can do this and this and this, and we're changing this and we're disbanding that. And then if we were to just control everything that happened, then we're just going back on exactly what we were trying to promote. So I hope it does quite well, and I hope that it's successful, and if it's not, we'll still have the hall and it will still belong to the people.
And look, I'm invested in making it work because it actually provides a model for others, even though there's a unique characteristics of that building that really lend itself, which is why we're on this path, and it's just the next generation of what they do. But it does demonstrate a path for others if they, as I said, if someone wanted to, the Palais, like we're going to, do this in its community purposes to be a regular theatre or whatever else, and we actually want to take it on, and they provided a proposal to us that said how it met the strategic intent and it met community purpose, we could look at that and go, yep, great, go for it. So it provides a model of how that could work.
Well, it's kind of how it used to be years ago, but it was done with the committee and under the committee. But there's no reason why we couldn't be doing similar things from more of an independent basis.
Yeah, and the Chieftain Town Hall, once it was changed forever.
Yeah.
So, and that's been changed for a long time now.
Yeah.
So when it was very first done, out of the money from the forest industry closure, and it was redone inside, it was sort of made so that it was never ever going to go back to being a hall like the Palais or Signet with their main room.
But it's got some interesting uses that the others don't have, so, it'll be great, I think. I hope.
It's my only concern with this, with one group in a community taking over, as you say, running a hall. Is that communities are complex, and there's often multiple circles within a community, and to basically give a community asset to only one part of the community is, I think, probably it's risky for council and in terms of reputation.
We are a bit
and
unique in Geeston as that we have a neighbourhood house, which fulfills a lot of the things that I know, like being the Signet Town Hall had, areas that were used for some of the things like we do at the neighbourhood house. So we have services in the Chieftain area that sort of you can already go there and play your games or whatever you need to do. Chieftain's unique that it already has those things where mahjong is played at the neighbourhood house, and so we are a little bit different than the other areas. And this is we went down this path of doing what we did to make sure that the hall stayed open for people to be able to access the information that was in there. The town hall uniquely is for visitors. So, and when you're a committee, anyone can go along and just I'll have open things and join easier probably than they can being a controlling authority by having
there's risks each way on this, but as we said, the way that's we can, without having to be this having a controlling authority or a committee of council that, we've gone through this, creates workers and all this stuff that has some very real other risks for us beyond just reputational. The way we can control this or exercise some control is through that, through the leasing arrangements and demonstrating that there is actually this community benefit, and upfront managing it through the consultation process. So engaging with, there's a Progress Association in Geeston. I'm sure Andrew would have a lot to say if he was, or Councillor Burgess would have a lot to say about this when he was here tonight. I know he's positive about this move. Geeston also does have a town hall akin to the others, which is just your dance hall, large open space. Geeston this is a really unique space, and I think the risk is well managed of that reputational potential, and is certainly a reduction in risk for council compared to what we've currently got under the current model. And it gives the community what they are asking for is the capacity to manage public assets for themselves, and we just need to again facilitate that in a way that it may not be perfect, but if it is just through a lease renewal process, you guys haven't been performing over the last period of time. We're going to terminate on these reasons.
There's another group who wants to take it over.
There's another group that gives us those mechanisms without having to fiddle in there and adjudicate between people's differences of opinion.
And we already have another hall that people can hire.
So are we going to build into whatever the document is that is the thing that people apply to, that it has to be used as a visitor centre? Is that part of the requirement? Because could the association decide to turn it into a mahjong hall for mahjong gamblers?
Or arts or anything.
Well, as long as it's got as long as it's a mahjong hall, it's got a community purpose point to it.
It might not ever be, it might not continue as a visitor centre then potentially in the future.
Or both. As the landlord, we determine the use to which a premises is put by using the
And that's what it's
permitted
been
use.
leased, that's the conditions of
Permitted
lease.
We're going to, right, so that's a question, are we going to write into the conditions of lease so that
All of our leases are written that way.
it continues to be a visitor centre? Because I
In
think,
line with what charter
In
articles
the
they can.
constitution, it
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
what the articles of association says.
because it is, I think there was a lot of pain that Chiefs went through when council withdrew from that, and there was a lot of discussion.
Withdrew
And-
from,
running
After a
the
staff.
visitor centre that was there, so 6 years ago, probably. And I can't understand the economic reason why it did, but I think, a lot of the debate in the community was about the continuing economic benefit that having a good quality visitor centre there that, help guide people. And you can see, when they don't have volunteers some days on the weekends, you can actually see 5 or 6 people lining up trying to get in, and they're clearly visitors, in their hire cars and things like that. So I think, maintaining that use is really important. The question becomes if they're an association, do they start asking us for some support to do that? But that's another question down in the future. But
And that's something that we can strategically consider, is if that association is helping council meet our own strategic goals, then it's valid that we actually assist in funding for that.
and becoming an association, they can then go and apply for the Premier's tourism grants or whatever
Exactly right.
stuff.
Which
they
they
can't do now.
And they are, I mean, you've seen the letter, they've actively applied for grants that they cannot get because they are part of council.
Thank you.
I guess my question was more around, you mentioning the Palais. And I mean, I guess I'd like to see how the current arrangement goes with Space to Go, where anybody can lease a space and it's open to the entire community rather than choosing one group and saying, you run it.
And I'm not saying I would ever be choosing one group. I'm saying that this gives a capacity for us, and our current position is, yes, we're using Space to Go, but as community continue to say they would like to take these things on, it gives them the opportunity to go, all right, how we put a proposal forward to council, and then we can move forward in that manner. But I'm certainly not advocating that I would never be endorsing we pick a favourite.
I mean, giving a lease to a certain group in a way is doing that.
It's a continuation of something.
Sure,
That's
sure,
right,
I'd agree.
yeah. Just a change of name effectively.
But there is a check process in that it's now in our regular cycle.
Exactly right.
Leasing,
Yeah.
tendering,
And just sort of out of interest, did anybody else want it?
back in the day,
No, like, other than this group, nobody else was really interested in doing anything with the hall anyway.
Well, we haven't given anybody an option to do that, so that's where, that's a governance risk.
Well, just in general, but I think somebody would have come to council had they been interested.
Oh, not necessarily, because at the moment there's a controlling authority controlling it.
Yeah.
If we suddenly said, okay, that now finishes, going back to my very first question is, do we then have a governance obligation to go, okay, anybody else wants to use it? But I think we're making a strategic decision here, and I think we've got to be honest with ourselves, that we're saying, no, we want to give this group a special favour to ask them to continue running it until such time as we lease it, because strategically we want them to continue running it as a visitor centre for the benefit of the community. So I think, as long as we're happy and honest with ourselves that we've made that decision, I don't think it's a bad decision to make.
And Jason has the other holes, so.
Yeah, that's right.
There's
There's
opportunities.
yeah.
You know, whereas we don't have other halls at Cigna, we don't have another town hall and.
So the building,
So it's a different process.
yeah, the build,
Commercial decision making.
yeah.
We can make part of the consultation to, you know, is there someone got another alternative use or whatever else?
Why would we? Because I think what we're saying is that's a benefit.
I
I think we
agree.
need to be a bit strategic here. I think we're allowed to be,
That's why we put this forward, yeah.
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 And you have other facilities, so I think, it's fine.
So at the end of the day then,
Thank you for a very good conversation. I think we've shown the public that we've thought of it. No,
We've worked out the pros and cons and the pros and cons.
I'm very happy that I think we've been very transparent. And if people of the Geeveston community want to ask, we can say, well, go and have a listen to the debate. Because
For the
I
last
think
hour or so.
so we just need to clarify,
Just clarify that.
yeah, that it's the building council, it's not public land.
The premises is not public land as defined by the Local Government Act. So the governance regulations about what we do or cannot do with public land are different. So this would be regarded as essentially a premises owned by council. So the expression of interest, statutory requirement for governance, is not mandatory.
Oh, yes, I understand what you're
Yes,
saying.
yeah, taking you back now. So it doesn't fall within
Wrong
section,
language.
it doesn't sit within section 178, which says if it is public land, council must. And it tells you what to do. So this is, if you can put your commercial hats on, this is about a commercial arrangement between council as the landlord and a separate entity, a corporate entity or an incorporated entity that is providing a service to the community.
So it's very unique for a council hall/building.
But is that any different to, for example, the Signet Weybridge building that we provide a lease to whoever it is?
That's on
Yeah,
public
it's the
land.
definition of public land.
So that is public land.
Most of those, I can't remember, don't hold me to this, I'd have to look it up on Spectrum straight away, but memory is when we have the relevant sections of the Local Government Act give you a mandatory process if you have public land. It's about the use to which land can be put. It's still got Huon Valley Council as the registered owner, but it's the use to which the land can be put. It is for public purposes. That is the implication. So any other premises that is owned on title by council does not have to fit within that governance framework. You consider it a commercial transaction, which should be still for the benefit of the community, but there might be a profit.
Which is why we're using the lease policy.
Correct.
As opposed to the public land. Yeah, and
Well, the lease policy sets out our process for leasing, whether it's public land or not.
Already land, yes. So, and my misspeaking of public land, I suppose what I'm saying is we're following our due process for leasing.
Under the law, yes.
Okay. Councillor Armstrong, have you got a closing?
Not a word.
Well, I'll put that recommendation forward and all those in blue, please raise your hand. That's all councillors and the motion is carried. Thank you, guys. Report number 17.007/25, Targa Tasmanian Road closure approval. I refer the councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move the motion? Councillor O'Neill, and the seconder, Councillor Jesser. Councillor O'Neill, do you wish to speak to this?
Targa's been shut down for a couple of years through some bad accidents and things like that, so it'll be interesting to see how they operate this time around. And I think there's a lot of people in the community that support petrol heads and car enthusiasts. I'm not one of them personally, but yep, I think they have a right to have their little bit and their day.
Do I have any other? Yes.
Just with regard to Jerry White's questions from the gallery, what council doesn't get any support from Targa on the roads or for maintenance or anything with that, and we don't really have any, aren't in any position to ask for any contribution from.
Only if they damage.
Sure, sure.
That's part C.
I mean, in some ways, I agree with Jerry that you need to, Jerry White, that when there's racing on public roads, you also need to have a counterbalance that says that that's not what they're for the rest of the time, and you know whether or not we can ask Targa to contribute to some education around that. I don't know. That's
I'd say just in the simplest terms possible that since the accidents, obviously Targa hasn't run down here. In the immediate wake of those accidents, I'd characterise our sort of interaction with Targa as pre-accident and after accident. We've been consistent after those accidents that very consistent with what is being recommended again here around those that community event permit. Actually seeing their, you know, how they're mitigating, how you're dealing with public infrastructure and minimising or paying for damage. So upping that responsibility to demonstrate that it is safe, taking a positive obligation on us. So and that, you know, largely just wasn't there in the past. So we've really been just focusing on that event safety minimum standards, really, like sensible standards. What's now being asked for is, you know, a further bite that we haven't tested, and it's up to, you know, councillors whether or not you feel that we should extend it right here and right now to consider some of those things.
Yes.
I think it's too late, but needs to be noted for next time around. Because my other comment is that we also in the report state that there could be economic benefits to our region. But you go to the website, the Huon Valley is not mentioned once, to what I can see, going through all their reports and all their pages. And it's not an event that I would go spectate, but that I know there is a community here that do like that, and we can't love every event that we have because we've got different audiences. But I just think it's too late to prevent or have an impact on an event that's not too far away.
Can I just comment on that? Timing continues to annoy me about Targa because we put all this stuff to Targa 2-3 years ago now and did a whole bunch of work. It was difficult and we had to push a lot, and then it all went quiet because the event just disappeared. But they were very much put on notice that Huon Valley Council had expectations akin to what we're asking for now, like the same as what we're asking for now. And then the first we really understood it, the first I knew of it was that, you know, we'd been put on the map again of where the event is going to go. And that's, I don't disagree with the event, or it's just, it is what it is, but it would just be courtesy. And I think given all the advances that they have made in safety and getting the public licence to run on public roads, to not actually really be in touch, or like be in touch as it goes public that, hey, you're on the list without yet even having a permit to be on that road, I find pretty rich. So it's really compressing the timelines for us to consider any of these kind of things. So I do agree with you that it's too late, but I'm not happy about that.
So I suppose what we can do is let them know that they can't come to us like that again. We can formally let them know that unless they give us lead time, we won't even, we'll say no.
So we could add an additional point to the recommendations, something along the lines, Chief Executive Officer is authorised to negotiate other promotional and social benefits for the Huon Valley with Targa. So we actually put it specifically in the motion that we can say, well, councillors have said to the CEO, you need to talk to them about, now they might tell us to go away, but
it will be forceful enough to let them know that they can put us in their advert all they like, but we mightn't let them on our roads.
That's right.
Their participation rates, you know, are capped, etc. Fair enough, but that's, you know, well over a few hundred people that are coming into our region with no direction on stay locally, eat locally. There's no promotion of our region, so that there is actually no social, or there could be economic benefits aren't realised. my second point before we consider an amendment, because part 23 says that there is a pre and post inspection condition responsibility of the organiser. I don't know if I've overseen it, but I can't find it in the report. I'm in the actual event permit. The second thing is some advice on process of an event organiser being responsible to pay for damages, but also responsible for notifying the damages. Is that good process for trust of ratepayers in us allowing public roads to be used, but the user is responsible for the pre and post self-reporting? I didn't know if that
I
was
might just ask their friends.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, the two questions. The first question is, it's not in the general terms conditions, it's in the special condition in the permit. So if you look the draft condition uploaded, it would say report condition. It's in the first page, the bottom of that grey table. It says,
Oh yeah, I see.
yeah, that's the for the pre and post, and it's a in terms of pre and post condition assessment, it's not saying you have to notify it when it causes the damage. It's more you have to demonstrate later on when we enter into this conversation. Have you damaged our infrastructure? We have the ability to verify what's before and what's after. Effectively put the responsibility back onto the organizer to demonstrate they haven't done any damage to our infrastructure, because it's in their benefit or best interest to gather the information in the pre and the post as soon as before and after the event to minimize that window.
In that risk to them, yeah.
Because I guess where does responsibility go for an event permit? It's not there's no timelines around that either. Like, is the post report 2 weeks beforehand, is the day off on conclusion as well? But also that's the major risk here, is damages to council assets being our roads.
So that's why we put the risk back onto the organizer, because the longer they not providing us the post-inspection report, any damage would be more likely to claim against them.
Fair enough. I just didn't know if it was correct process it is correct process. I'm losing my words now, it's getting late. But
This is a common process used in
if it would satisfy us in being able to recuperate and actually fix those problems if damages were to occur. But if that's the
So that's what
confidence-
actually in the condition we say is the provide pre and post inspection report to the satisfaction of the council.
Great, thanks.
Sorry, so I have a question, Mayor. So, am I correct, because it's getting late, just 2 days from 10 till 2 between Woodbridge Hill, Gospel Hall and Perry's Road, and then the 2 days is Gardeners Bay and the second day is Oyster Cove, is that correct?
Same day.
One day, isn't it?
Oh, it's 1 day.
Monday.
Okay, so it's just coming through for 1 day. So how is anyone going to get to those places to actually spectate them coming through? Because there's not going to be very many places to stop and hide a car and drive on the side of those roads.
You'd be surprised, they do it.
But then what happens? Where do they go then? Have I missed a brief somewhere? The cars, are they going to? Yeah, are they going to come through Huonville, or have I missed some information? Or did we just not get any?
Well, they only race for that period, then they'll all drive back to their posh hotels and.
Well, that's what I sort of thought. So I'm kind of like,
Through your mayor, if you look line 38, they indicate they're interested in holding a lunch break in segment. So that's probably the tourist benefit to bring to the township.
But following the race stages, the competitors are just private vehicles operating on the road like anyone else, and they just drive off to where they're staying in preparation for the next stage, which is out of our area.
so in actual fact, we're just allowing them to have their own fun and they're not actually bringing anything to the valley.
Except for the tourism benefit for the
And I think when-
Signet lunch.
Except for their own little.
Well, when they park in Signet, you'd
Yeah,
be
people
surprised
come in.
how many people will come and talk to them.
Are they going to though?
But the Targa people, the followers of Targa, it's not just the the drivers, there's people that follow them around Tasmania, to every, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
The
it's,
spectators come with them.
Friends and families, yeah.
it's a 38, clause section 38 is an indication at this stage that they've got that interest, and that's a live conversation. That's supported by Councillor Jessop's suggested item D, where the CEO is authorised to negotiate other promotional and social benefits, I think is effectively what you said. And I can point directly to that one, but also table, what we've heard here tonight in the gallery. Here's what this council's thinking about.
Where it just links from their website to our Huon Valley.
100%. Like it's
Definitely
Yeah.
needs more advertisement.
Can we also refer them to engage with the Huon Valley Tourism Network, or whatever we call it, Destination Southern Tas?
I
Those
think-
bodies that we support to actually achieve these
Well, yeah, and I think just
outcomes for our region.
don't need that in the recommendation.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
because they obviously are not.
Yeah, they are focused. My impression, having dealt with them for quite a while, is that they're focused on running their race, and they're not focused on driving tourism benefit to the community. But they say that as part of the implied benefit and why they should be allowed to race. You can take that on face value, or as we're hearing around the table tonight, that there's a level of dubiousness about that, and that we should press that. So I think that item D, I would support, and then we go ahead and check that out.
Sandra for D.
So Chief Executive Officer is authorised to negotiate other promotional and social benefits with Target Tasmania.
You got
And
that?
should we also just include something about informing the public about safety?
That would want to be one of the social benefits. So I'd capture all that. So road safety.
They can't speed anymore anyway, aren't they?
Sure.
They're now speed limited.
Yeah, I think they're sort of already on that
Yeah.
path. So
Look, I think you just got to give them a chance, and that perhaps it's going to morph back into something that sort of started out of more classic cars, and that will create more genuine interest. Where it probably went that way, where it was just rich
Speed.
people going too fast
Yeah.
in
Yep.
more modern cars. So hopefully it'll become more of a community interest thing.
a bit of pressure from Huon Valley Council would
Yeah.
hurt.
they started off. I forgot they started off in dressed up cars and funny
Well, there's
suits.
a lot of antique, and it still was, but it just got it in. They're all Porsches. And,
Yeah.
that's-
Well, I mean, at this stage in the before pre-race, we'll see what we can. I think you mentioned it, Councillor Jessop. It's probably too late, and we'll see. And at worst, we can get this as feedback into next year's to put them on notice.
November, so they can still do links on their pages.
They can do some.
We can cross-promote it as well. So if we know that they're going to have an hour in Signet where the drivers are willing to talk about their cars, we can promote that.
Yeah, that'd be
Like,
nice.
you would be surprised. Well, they'll have to order their sandwiches.
That's right.
They were entering council's electric car.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thorpe.
And I
Do you want
nominate
an
the
E?
mayor and deputy mayor to be the driver and co-driver.
Do you want an E in that, do you, after the D? You want to put it in there? No.
That the mayor enters the council.
I've done my electric vehicle course thing that we had to do here.
Okay.
All right. So you happy with D?
Yes.
Yep. No worries. So Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Jessop, are you happy with the adding?
I second it. Can I move an amendment? No, but if I accept the amendment, I can do it, can I? Yes. Yep. I'm happy.
Right.
Brilliant amendment.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, with the inclusion of D to the recommendation, all those in favour, please raise your hand. It's all councillors. Motion is carried. 19.051/25, we're about to move into closed. So we've already thanked those that were in the gallery because they've left, and those watching from at home. The recommendation is that the meeting now be closed to the public at
9:03 PM.
pursuant to Regulation 17 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2025 to discuss the following matters. Confirmation of minutes, general reports closed, and the annual performance review. Do I have a councillor to move
And
Deferred matter.
and the deferred? Sorry, thank you. Which was item number
Item number 16.4. Yep.
16.015. Thank you. Do I have a councillor to move into closed? Councillor Jessup and a seconder, Councillor Thorpe. No, I looked at Thorpe first. Yep. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all, councillors. I advise that in accordance with Huon Valley Council's audio recording and council meeting policy, recording of the open session of the meeting, CSTAT.
9:04 PM.